Good afternoon. This is the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I'm Chairman Weezer. I've been joined by Councilmember Englander and Councilmember Cedillo. We will now commence the meeting. Go through our consent calendar first. We will actually...
You have cards for everything.
Oh, we do. We have cards for... Yeah, we'll go through that right now. All right. We have cards for everything. Okay. Number 8, we will receive and file. And we will quickly go through the agenda. We have a number of cards on each item. Just handed more. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Before we start, can we actually table item 2 for another 30 days?
Sure. Item number 2, we will continue for 30 days.
And with that continuance, if there are public comment cards, those folks can certainly come back when it's re-agendized.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item 2 continued for 30 days.
That would be to July 28th, sir? Okay.
Yes. Okay, so item number 1, can that be read into the record, please?
Sure. Item 1 is a cultural heritage report, Councilman, relative to the inclusion of the Maxfield building as a historic cultural monument.
Okay, we have 2 public comment cards. Wayne Spinner. And after Wayne is Herman Herman.
Yes, it's so nice and dark in here. I appreciate that. Some of us are hungover from lunch. Thank you for that. Now, we get to this. Oh, it's in CD 14. And that's a good thing because you're the chair and it's in your council district. So I know there'll be a vigorous debate here today at this committee. Many questions will be asked. But I attended a recent Cultural Heritage Commission, and it seems that they were in favor of this. And there were other speakers that were in favor of it. So there's no community impact statement, but given the fact that it is a Jose Huizar district, a Jose Huizar project, and a Jose Huizar chaired committee, I believe it'll pass 2-0. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Herman Herman. Not here. Okay. So we'll move this side. Oh, yeah, there he is.
Good afternoon. In regards to this 1 minute, we're all aware that the Supreme Courts have ruled you should sue for racial discrimination when it comes to housing for the historic cultural monuments. I sat in that committee, just 2 people out of the public on an afternoon that went on for 3 boring hours. But the subject of material here defies the truth, that there is nothing affordable, whether or not the taxpayers pay for it and accept the responsibility, or special interests who we're giving this to. So I object to this. Again, a reminder that the courts have ruled 5-4 in favor of what the adverse impact and no intent to include the community. With transparency, dignity, and respect, always make your comment known to participate, sir. Get it? Thank you.
Thank you. So on item 1, we will move this item with no objection. Item number 3.
Item 3, Councilman, is a report again from the Cultural Heritage Commission to include the Dr. W.J. Davis residence as a historic cultural monument.
Wayne, Spindler, and Herman.
Yes, we have, well, this is in CD 10, and of course that is the all-powerful God known as Herb Wesson. And you have to realize that this is in the Country Club Park Neighborhood Association, and of course that means that they're going to be able to keep all the poor out of that area. So one of the things I like to do is to keep making historical cultural monuments and HPOZ zones so they can further and further gentrify the areas and the sub-areas surrounding these areas, because there's a lot of poor people that are trying to move in, including affordable housing. But recently the Supreme Court ruled that these effects of these programs may be the basis of litigation against the city. So I believe the city attorney should look into this to see if it's litigatory.
Herman.
Now, as many can see in this dark room that my skin is not very white, but there was no community impact statement, none submitted. Again, the racial tension by Herb Wesson at the Westchester Place at 1255, I find it offensive. Offensive because if there is a Dr. W.J. Davis residence there, why can't there be an Armando Herman residence anywhere? Why do we have to pick a name and montify it? Doesn't make sense. So unless there's such a thing as affordable housing and people of the community can use these facilities and become caretakers of it, then I'm all for it. But obviously your vote's going to go yes, 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 tabulate the votes. It doesn't matter. Racist, racist, racist. Jose Huizar.
Herman, why don't you stay there right now, and you're next in line, Mr. Herman, number 4. And as you walk up, City Clerk, can you read the item into the record, please?
Item 4, Councilman, is a Cultural Heritage Commission report relative to the inclusion of the Gillespie House as a historic cultural monument.
And we're approving item number 3
Great.
without objection.
Now that Rue is in and LaBonge is far, far, far gone, good thing. We got rid of Uncle Tom, and we no longer have this racism war, gentrification going on, because Rue stepped in. We changed the culture of this horseshoe, where we have the first Asian American, not the first president woman that I care less for, although it would be a good choice and a possible chance. But no, it has to go with your credentials. If you don't have the credentials, let me stick to the topic here. It's off subject. Karen Russell, applicant, again, West Tuxedo Terrence. That's a good name, although I don't wear a tux. I am still against it. I oppose to this decision of the inclusion of the Gillespie House. It's been around for years. Tear it down and put something new that we can all enjoy, the elderly and the disabled. Thank you.
Wayne?
Yes, I believe that our new councilman from CD4, David is going to be needing to look at this because he hasn't been apprised yet of the situation. And of course, that councilman is the first Korean American ever elected to the council, David. So now, the chief of staff for the late departed Tom LaBonge, who recently passed away, her name is Carolyn Ramsey. And I wanted to know if Carolyn Ramsey was the one responsible for this, because if she is, she was running against David Rue, making racist attacks against Asians. So I'd like to know if that's the case. This matter should be referred back to the new councilman. He's coming in tomorrow, and then he can decide whether to move forward with the project.
Thank you so very much. So we'll move this item without objection and go on to item number 7, please.
Sure, Councilman. Item 7 is a report from planning, a joint report, CLA, city planning, and city attorney report. This is on the draft sign ordinance. And for your information, councilmen and committee members, what's before you are two versions of the Planning Department draft ordinance, as well as the June 18th CLA Planning Department report. And there's also two reports from the city attorney which speak to the issue of the rebuttable presumption. And there's also a Planning Department June 18th report which compares version A and version B of the draft ordinance. And the Planning Department will make a presentation.
Thank you. And before we ask the Planning Department to give a presentation on items before us today, I'd like to let everyone know that the Plum Committee will not be recommending adoption of an ordinance today. That is not what is before us today. We are not considering a final ordinance, any final ordinance at this time. We are hearing two reports from the city departments, and we are also going to hear public comment. At the end of the discussion, we may make some further requests of the city attorney and the departments, but I thought it was important that everyone understand that we are not advancing an ordinance today, but hearing the reports as presented by the planning department. We do, however, want to take progress. As many of you know, the sign ordinance is something that has been with the council for some time, and we want to at least hear these reports and move in some direction at the end of the discussion, hopefully. So with that, Tom Rothman is here from the Department of the City Planning to give a presentation.
Thank you, Councilman. Again, Tom Rothman from the Planning Department, and we're here today to talk about an ordinance that was originally approved by the City Planning Commission back in 2009, and we are going to talk about two versions of the ordinance that it's going to be before you today. Most of the recommendations in these versions are answering questions that were asked to the Planning Department and to the Chief Legislative Analyst's Office back in December of last year from this committee. So I'm just going to go start a very brief background to get everybody back up to speed about what the sign ordinance is and does. So as I said, in 2008, Council introduced a motion requesting that the city create a comprehensive sign code to be added to the zoning code, and in 2009 we presented an ordinance to the City Planning Commission, and it was approved that year by the City Planning Commission and transmitted to Plum. So between 2009 and today, it's been in this committee, and it's had about 15 individual hearings. It was last heard by this committee in December, and this committee asked us to come back with some revisions to the ordinance, and it also asked us in tandem with the CLA to answer about 7 different questions related specifically to how we could regulate digital off-site signs outside of sign districts. So we'll also talk a little bit about that today. Okay. So just another overview of the ordinance. The ordinance does allow Tier 1 and Tier 2 sign districts in certain parts of the city. Tier 1 sign districts are what is normally allowed, or what we usually call regular sign districts that cover large parts of the city, like Hollywood, like the Hollywood sign district. And the Tier 2 sign districts are the smaller sign districts, usually to accommodate a private campus-like setting. The ordinance also establishes a takedown ratio. When you put up one digital sign, you have to take down one. Put up one static sign, you take down others. We also have new digital display regulations regarding brightness, illumination, and timing. And we also have new higher penalties for illegal off-site signs. And those are items that are already in the ordinance that you've seen. Why is this ordinance needed now and over the last few years? Well, basically to comply with several different court rulings that talk specifically about having limited objective criteria for exceptions to our sign code, to talk about aesthetics and traffic safety, and also to talk about time, place, and manner regulations to allow for content neutrality. Hopefully this will also preclude further lawsuits, and it will also modernize and streamline the city's zoning code. This is a good illustration of a map of where today, with today's zoning code, where we allow sign districts. We allow them in all of our commercial and manufacturing zones, and in some parts of our downtown centers. So as you can see, all of the red and the blue shaded areas are areas where where sign districts are eligible. So it's a very large portion of the city. And with the proposal before you today, we've greatly reduced that by talking about only allowing them in regional centers, the airport, the port, most of downtown again, stadiums and arenas with 20,000 seats or more, and also at the zoo. Certain areas are prohibited in the ordinance, and mostly areas near single-family homes, near state parks like the LA River, and ecological preserves. This would basically reduce the eligible areas for sign districts by 90%. This is just a quick graphic about our sign reduction provisions. If you put up one static sign, you take down one static sign. If you put up one digital sign, you take down two signs. So it's talking about our proposed sign reduction provisions and our takedown ratios. It also talks a little bit about community benefits, where if you put up a sign, you must provide a certain amount of community benefits. And then also in our ordinance today, we talk about digital displays. We have timing requirements that talks about the minimum time a message must stay up before it is rotated, and then also having quick and uninterrupted changes between messages. We also have limited the brightness of our nighttime digital signs to 450 candelas, and then the 7,500 candelas for daytime illumination. Another component that we've talked about, it's in one of the versions before you today, is amnesty for illegal signs. The Department of Building and Safety has done an extensive review of off-site signs throughout LA. We have about a little under 1,000 signs that are either unpermitted or have been changed since they were originally permitted. We've figured that there's about 546 billboards out there that do not have any permit at all, and we're not recommending that we are recommending that they be granted amnesty and be granted legal status. Yet there's also 391 other signs that have somehow been altered since their original permit. So the city does maintain the permit for some signs that have been illegally altered or changed. One of the things that came out of the last Plum meeting was a request to the CAO to talk about various options for allowing signs outside of sign districts. So one is to not allow any digital signs outside of sign districts. One version would be to allow them on public property only, and then there was one version that would allow a public-private option where they could be allowed in both places. And I believe that was forwarded to the city. The Chief Administrative Officer's office is awaiting direction from this committee on which way to proceed with their financial analysis. And here is a list of the other considerations that were sent to us, and they're in a memo from the Chief Legislative Analyst and the Director of Planning to your office a few weeks ago, and they talk about 7 different items about how we could possibly regulate off-site signs outside of sign districts. So one talks about creating a conditional use permit process for all new signs outside of sign districts, how we could have relocation agreements and how that could work effectively, have more clearly defined standards for new signs outside of sign districts, increasing our takedown ratio from that slide I showed you earlier, being more explicit and exact about our community benefits through the conditional use process, having better regulations regarding distancing from neighborhood signs and different illumination standards, and then also how we could have a citywide cap on all digital signs. We want to do it in what type of geography throughout the city, throughout the council districts, throughout the community planning areas. Those are all decisions we would have to look into further. And then I'm just going to go quickly into the proposed options about what's in version A and what's in version B and what was seen by the City Planning Commission earlier. So this is really just an overview again of what we've already talked about. But on the far left-hand side, we did talk specifically about allowing Tier 1 and Tier 2 sign districts. So that's still in the ordinance. Talking about a takedown ratio of 1-to-1 for all billboards. A ratio can be halved if they provide community benefits. and talk about brightness and messaging regulations. Those were part of the original ordinance that was adopted by the City Planning Commission in 2009. And then the changes to those regulations that are in the version B of the ordinance, which the Planning Department has said the Commission, the City Planning Commission has reviewed, and if the committee chooses to have this version go on to the full council, it would not have to return to the City Planning Commission because of all of these items have been discussed in front of the commission at one time. So we did talk about changing the Tier 1 minimum stadium requirements, which is in version B, from originally 50,000 seats to 20,000 seats. So again, this is in the version that can proceed to City Council. Providing a takedown ratio for digital signs, and we can increase that to 2-to-1, which I talked about earlier. Allowing on-site digital signs only in sign districts. Today, almost all signs in the city, whether off-site signs in the city can be illuminated to be digital. So we could be able to change that with version B. And then we've also modified our grandfathering list of potential sign districts from December of 2011 to December of just last year. Okay, I'm wrapping up here. So then the additional provisions that are in the version B only that would probably have to return to the City Planning Commission for review, because these are the items that have gone above and beyond what the Commission approved back in 2009. Talks about
I think you meant version A, Tom.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, version A. Yes, version A grants ZA authority to approve relocating off-site signs on the same site. Right now, that's not allowed. It also talks about the amnesty provisions that I talked about, the amnesty for either all 937 or the ones that have no permit at all, a subset of that, and also allows for adjustments for digital displays on historic buildings. So that would allow the Director of Planning to have an authority to adjust the regulations of digital off-site signs on historic buildings. And that concludes the summary. So again, version A, if approved, must return to the City Planning Commission or pieces of it. Version B is something that covers all of the issues that were addressed back in 2009 by the City Planning Commission, and we believe has been discussed enough by the City Planning Commission.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for that presentation and the update where we last left this in December. At this time, we will go through public comment, and each person has 1 minute to speak. So as I call you up, I will call 3 people up at a time. And we'll start now. Craig Lawson, Rani Narula Woods, Barbara Brody.
Thank you, Councilman. Craig
Thank
Lawson
you.
here.
Yeah.
I just want to comment on 2 items in the proposal. One has to do with access easements. There's some new language in here that deals with signs that are on access easements or adjacent properties that are related to the main site. We're asking that that wording be amended to clarify that these access easements could also be vehicular access, not just pedestrian. So if you would please keep that in mind as you send this further. Secondly, I'm supporting the CCA position on grandfathering of sign districts that were applied for a long time ago. We support the grandfathering, but we oppose the concept that these grandfathered districts would also have to go through a takedown program, as there's many areas where that takedown program is just not feasible. So we ask you to consider that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ronnie Narula Woods.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ronnie Narula Woods, and I am the Deputy Political Director for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, which represents more than 600,000 working people in the County of Los Angeles. On behalf of Executive Secretary Treasurer Rusty Hicks, I am joining you today because the item in front of you is a job program for local residents. As you know, the local building and construction trades have in place a project labor agreement. And if these billboards are approved, this will bring work directly to the local community, in and around the districts, as well as the areas which would require special permitting, if approved. Council members, voting to support digital billboard districts and permitting is voting to support the future of local jobs. We appreciate you prioritizing job creation here in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Brody here? Not here? Christine Peters is here from CD 13. Do you wish to speak now or at the end? At the end? Okay. David Phelps, Dennis Hathaway, David Ewing. David Phelps, Dennis Hathaway. We'll start with Dennis Hathaway, then David Phelps, and David Ewing.
Thank you, committee members. I'm Dennis Hathaway. I'm president of the Coalition to Ban Billboard Blight. In 2002, the city approved a program to inventory and inspect all billboards. That survey found many billboards without permits or in violation of their permits. Now we have a proposal to grant amnesty to all those billboards, even though the city attorney says the law is defensible and his office is ready to enforce it. In 2009, after 3 lengthy public hearings, the City Planning Commission approved a revised sign ordinance restricting new off-site signs, including digital billboards, to sign districts in a limited number of high-intensity commercial areas. Now we have a proposal to throw that out the window and allow digital billboards anywhere on commercial streets. I ask whose interests are represented by these proposals: the communities that make up this city, or the interest of Clear Channel, Lamar Advertising, and other deep-pocketed companies that spend millions on lobbying and supporting city council political campaigns? Thank you.
Thank you. David Phelps, David Ewing.
Good afternoon. David Phelps with the Association of Independent Commercial Producers. We represent 300 small and medium-sized commercial production companies and represent a $5 billion industry in our city. We're here to join with the Billboard Coalition Group in support of an ordinance for billboards that allows for both traditional and digital billboards and is a necessity for our competitive regional climate. Using billboards to promote the sale of goods and services will contribute to the continued employment of more than 500,000 jobs in Los Angeles, which result in more than $6 billion in state and local taxes. It is a public benefit of the billboards and digital displays, both in disseminating information immediately in cases of disaster and crime prevention, so this does serve a multiple benefit to the city. The Council has the power to enact an ordinance that will establish reasonable restrictions on message illumination, duration, and change rate, and make provisions for public benefits and ensure that there are opportunities for all outdoor companies to secure digital signs. Thank you.
Thank you. David Ewing, Dan Silver, Lou Baquito, and Frank Lima.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm a founding member of a community group in Venice that's been working to beautify Lincoln Boulevard for many years. We worked really hard for many years to get a community design overlay and to make it more pedestrian friendly and make it a more vibrant commercial boulevard. That included getting rid of illegal signs. And according to the city billboard survey, there are 4 billboards that have second faces added without permits and 2 more that are significantly higher and larger than their permits. So this violates the CDO, and granting amnesty to these billboards will send a message that the billboard company profits are worth more than our community efforts. There are also 2 digital billboards on the street. Before they were turned off by court order, there were complaints from many people about the bright changing light intruding into their homes and apartments, as well as possible distractions to drivers on that very heavily trafficked street. If you allow the CUP process for digital billboards, these could be turned back on and once more degrade the quality of life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dan Silver.
Honorable Chair, committee members, I'm Dan Silver, a downtown resident. I'm appalled at the brazen attempt by the sign industry to dismantle the entire premise of sign districts, which is the confinement of signs. A CUP process would open up the entire city to digital signs. The public could never keep up with this. Talk about the influence of lobbyists. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain in place. The amnesty would reprehensively allow illegal signs to remain please honor the compromise, the confinement compromise that the city embarked on and put this blight monster to rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou Bagito.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Lou Baglietto, and I'm here on behalf of the Harbor City Harbor Gateway Chamber of Commerce, where I'm privileged to serve as their Vice President of Legislation. The Harbor City Harbor Gateway Chamber of Commerce, with hundreds of members throughout the harbor area, not only supports policies that are good for business, but as a chamber, we recognize the importance of developing positive images for our community that benefit everyone. The Los Angeles County Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year is from Harbor City, and we're very happy that her billboard is now scattered across Los Angeles County. That's why I'm here to urge support for and action on a comprehensive sign ordinance. It is obvious that the staff has done an outstanding job of trying to put together the issues for council action. You now have an opportunity to create a new ordinance to ensure the city receives much-needed community benefits, including revenues from the use and modernization of appropriately located digital signs. It is important that you take advantage of this now. You've had a lot of years to consider the issue. We urge you to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Lima, Ron Miller, Sarah Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. My name is Frank Lima. I'm the president of the United Firefighters of Los Angeles City. This is the second time that UFLAC, the firefighters, have personally testified in this committee hearing to speak on behalf of a sensible outdoor signage policy. I think it's important to note and tell why firefighters care about this issue. It's real simple. The city desperately needs revenue for public safety efforts and to bring new firefighters into our neighborhood stations. The LAFD is the most understaffed big city fire department in America. Much needed revenue will allow the LAFD to continue to provide the best service and protection for our residents. Digital signs can bring new revenue to address basic service needs like fixing our aging infrastructure. It will also bring jobs. Additionally, digital signs can be changed from remote locations that will help in our red warning high hazard flag days. So we support an ordinance that will provide reasonable balance of traditional and digital signs, and that will provide enhanced public safety benefits while respecting the public's concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Miller and Sarah Walsh.
Good afternoon, Councilman. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades. We strongly support a new digital billboard policy for the City of Los Angeles. Comprehensive policy will benefit the city and its residents. It allows regulation and common sense. It allows the city to collect revenue and to use billboards for public safety, as you've just heard. Like many industries, the outdoor advertising industry has been profoundly changed by technology. What worked 50 years ago doesn't work today. In fact, what works today works a hell of a lot better than what worked 50 years ago. This policy allows digital billboards to be sited in the right places where they will be most effective. It will actually remove static billboards from many areas of the city. As Los Angeles grows, we're all realizing the need for more planning. We need to stay ahead of these changes. Do not play catch-up. Let's bring some revenue into the city. Let's get this thing going. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Walsh, Peter Repovich, Angela Gibson.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weezer and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Walsh, and I'm here today on behalf of the Motion Picture Association of America and our member companies to encourage the Council to take action to implement reasonable regulation of both on-site and off-site digital signage in the City of Los Angeles. Digital billboards present an efficient and attractive opportunity for our member companies to advertise their motion pictures and television shows. This technology provides a convenient way to keep advertisements current and up to date. For example, following major awards or a highly successful opening weekend, a motion picture company can modify an advertisement on a digital billboard to reflect and incorporate an achievement of a particular film. We support an ordinance that will establish reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions for both on-site and off-site digital signage that will allow our member companies to take advantage of a technology that successfully improves the advertising and marketing of movies and television programs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Peter Repovich, Angela Gibson.
Good afternoon. Peter Repovich, Police Protective League. We support any reasonable new law that allows this city to make more revenue.
We've been supporting the billboard industry for years now, and we haven't got to the place we need to be. It's about revenue and public safety. They go hand in hand. So please, let's get to the bottom of this issue, and let's bring in revenue, and let's enhance public safety for our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Angela Gibson, Frank Zavala, Father Thomas Carey, and Arnold Ahrens.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Gibson, and I'm the president of the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce, or better known as GLAC. GLAC is made up of proactive individuals who are dedicated to improving economic opportunities, especially in the African American business community. Together, GLAC has a significant voice, and we make a positive difference, and we're here to lend our support to the LA Advertising Coalition support for common sense regulation of digital signage. Part of the proposed ordinance includes community benefits that can be used to fund improvements in the neighborhood of the signs, such as creating green space, fixing sidewalks, and increasing police and fire protection. In today's economy, this could provide much-needed funding when budget cuts have eliminated such programs. In addition, billboards allow small businesses to advertise their products, drive customers to their location, and grow their business, creating more jobs and stimulating the local economy, which is especially helpful in underserved communities. In addition, billboards are important information. Thank you. We encourage your passage.
Thank you, Father Frank. Frank Zavala. The next is
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Zavala. I'm here as representative of the State and Building Construction Trades Council of California. Today, I'm here in support of a digital sign ordinance for the City of Los Angeles. We are a statewide organization, have seen firsthand public benefit to the sign, whether they be Sacramento, Berkeley, or Long Beach, point or in between. These signs create meaningful city revenue. They are an asset to our brothers and sisters in the public safety and resource to the community groups. The building trades have been a beneficiary of the resource of one of the sign companies, Clear Channel, has graciously allowed us to use digital sign both in Northern or Southern California to promote the Governor's Legacy Project, High-Speed Rail, which will create tens and thousands of jobs across California for our brothers and sisters in the building trades. On behalf of over 400,000 hardworking members, please work together to move to a full council comprehensive digital sign ordinance. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Father Thomas Carey, Arnold Ahrens.
Good afternoon. My name is Father Thomas Carey. I'm with the Church of the Epiphany, and I'm speaking on behalf of Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. We are in support of the ordinance as it is proposed. This question has a lot of ambiguities, and I am not a great fan of digital signs, but the point is that these things are here. And so I believe it is our job and your job to get in front of this question and to regulate them in a way that is most consonant with the public good. The thing we like about this ordinance is that it supports union jobs, brings in revenue for the city, and it promotes public access. So we urge the adoption of the ordinance as it stands.
Thank you. Arnold Ahrens, Felix Hernandez, David Caliotta, and Rick Castellon. Welcome.
I am Arnold Ahrens, president of Ahrens Manufacturing. I'm third generation owner of a business my grandfather founded here in Los Angeles in 1908. Well, at times it's been challenging keeping our business.
One moment, please, and if you could hold the time. Can you lift your microphone there, please? We want to make sure we hear you. And is the audio okay up there? Any issues?
Am I?
Okay. Can you please speak into the microphone there? And
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right.
No, it's not.
Boy. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Good. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Arnold Ahrens, president of Ahrens Manufacturing. I'm a third generation owner of a family business founded in Los Angeles in 1908. While at times it's been challenging keeping our business in Los Angeles because of the recent economic downturn and new minimum wage increases, there's no place we'd rather do business. We need you as our elected officials to put this process to rest. I've been personally involved in the process of the signs since I signed my first lease in March of 2000. It's my hope that all present at this committee will finally accomplish this task. Our building is in a manufacturing area, not surrounded by homes, lofts, residences, or others who might take offense to a digital billboard. We would appreciate greatly the ability to move forward with this opportunity, which would allow my company to invest in our local economy with your reasonable support. Thank you for considering my request.
Thank you. Felix Hernandez.
Yes. Good afternoon, honorable council members. My name is Felix Hernandez. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I'm here representing the Latino Diabetes Association and its hundreds of members, and I'm personally one of their recent board members that joined the organization recently. And we are here in strong support of advancing a sign ordinance. Unfortunately, most of the digital signs in the city have been dark for about, about 2 years. And nonprofit organizations such as ours are feeling the impact of the lack of the importance in taking advantage of this resource. Honorable council members, you have the opportunity today to ensure that the city also benefits from these signs by amending the current sign ordinance to secure significant revenue over the next several decades, as well as other valuable community benefits. I know for one that for the Latino Diabetes Association, it would serve us tremendously in promoting awareness in combating diabetes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. David Caliota. Rich Castellon. Not here. Okay. Noah Molstein from CD5. Want to speak now or afterwards? Out now? Okay. Noah Molstein from Council District 5, Cheryl Parisi, Samantha Beasley, and Kanchan Matu. Welcome.
Welcome. Hi. Keep it short. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Noah Molstein. I'm the Planning and Land Use Deputy for Councilmember Paul Koretz's office, Council District 5. The council member has been a long-time opponent of signage districts, especially digital billboards. There we go. CD5 has felt its fair share of digital billboards throughout the district. The council member is also concerned about the potential actions that are being considered today to allow billboards and sign districts. These districts can hurt the city's limited power to enforce of the existing billboards. The council member has acknowledged and understands that there are more procedural processes ahead of us and would like to utilize the time to address his concerns for version A, as the item still needs to go back to CPC. He looks forward to fleshing out these issues then. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Parisi.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Parisi. I'm the Executive Director of AFSCME District Council 36 and the Chair of the Coalition of LA City Unions representing over 20,000 city workers. I'm here today to stand with my brothers and sisters in the building trades, the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, and workers for the City of Los Angeles who support and encourage your prompt action on this well-drafted ordinance. This ordinance will not only regulate in a good way for our communities the new technologies, but will provide good jobs in the City of Los Angeles and needed revenue to enhance the ongoing quality of city services. In addition, by the creation of the Zoo Signage District, will create unique opportunities for the exercise of municipal marketing, which can provide additional revenues to the zoo and enhance the quality of that wonderful asset for the City of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Beasley, and then Kanchan Matu.
Hi,
I'm Alicia Witzling here actually on behalf of Sam Beasley today from the LA Area Chamber of Commerce.
Excuse me, can you, we do not typically allow people to substitute for others, but you can speak, but make sure you fill out a card afterwards with the appropriate name. We just need,
Sure, not a problem.
need them for our records. Thank you.
Sorry about that confusion. On behalf of our over 1,600 members and 750,000 people they employ, we are here to offer our support to an ordinance that deals with signs today. The outdoor advertising industry is essential to our local economy. More than 6,000 small and large businesses depend on the opportunity it provides. The process of establishing a revised ordinance has gone on very long, but we're so close, and we want to encourage the council today to keep the momentum going. The CLA report for Offsite Digital is a good step forward, we think. We appreciate the city continuing the work to work with us to hammer out things like in-loop permit processes, and we hope to continue to work with them to make it a workable ordinance that everybody can enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Kanchan Matu, Dennis Dillon, Antonio Sanchez, and Amy Mendez.
Hello, my name is Khan Matu. I'm a co-founder of the Hollywood Fringe Festival, a nonprofit and the largest performing arts festival in Los Angeles. Since our inception in 2010, we've been able to return over $1 million in ticket sales back to local artists and venues. We've just completed our 6th festival where we saw over 50,000 seats filled. It is with the help of billboards that we've been able to grow our audiences and our festival over the years. As a nonprofit, we depend on the visibility that billboards provide to bring audiences to see the new and exciting works presented by our amazing performing arts community here in Los Angeles. We ask the council to establish reasonable standards for both traditional and digital billboards that benefit both our neighborhoods and our nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Dillon.
For having me. I'm Dennis Dillon from MEI Real Estate and MEI Capital. We're a small firm that refurbishes properties, both industrial and retail, and the revenues from signage allows us to improve properties all over the city of Los Angeles, and also the revenues from such signs, tax revenues, improve the streets around us. So we're strongly in favor of passing of this ordinance as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Antonio Sanchez.
Good afternoon, Antonio Sanchez. I'm with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 11. We represent close to 12,000 members in LA County, and I'm simply here to ask for your support for a comprehensive digital sign ordinance. It clearly sounds like your planning staff, your staff, you yourself personally have researched this time and time for many years, and we know the benefits. The revenue for the city, a resource for public services, and of course jobs for our members. This will create local jobs for IBW and other trades folks. So we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Mendez, Piedmont Brown, Pastor Q, Father Richard Estrada.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Mendez, and I'm representing and speaking on behalf of Special Needs Network. We're a nonprofit in Los Angeles. We're in support of digital billboards because they help advertise for organizations like ours and bring awareness to the important causes that we work so diligently for in an innovative way. These billboards are easy to read from a distance and expand our reach to families that may not have known about nonprofit organizations like ours before. Thank you.
Thank you. Piedmont Brown, Pastor Q, and Father Richard Estrada.
Good afternoon. I'm Piedmont Brown, President of the Ironworkers, Local 433. We support this project. We're hoping that it moves forward. The digital signs are an asset to the city of Los Angeles, as well as for revenue, as well as for safety features, and as well as for public access. With that being said, we support this wholeheartedly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pastor Q.
Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of
Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, CLU, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We support digital billboards because they create jobs. We need good jobs in our communities. Living wage jobs are crucial to the viabilities of our community. In regards to public service usage, the ability for nonprofits to advertise their services is a great way to connect the community members, including people living on the streets, to services they may otherwise not be aware of. Lastly, in case of emergency, digital signs can be used for Amber Alerts, and we all want to be alert. Thank you.
Thank you. Father Richard Estrada, Kevin Bowling, Sarah Mitchell, and Benjamin Hanlon. Any of those names that I called could come up. I'll take you. Sarah Mitchell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Council members, I'm Sarah Mitchell with the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. The city prides itself on its efforts to lead the pack. The current administration in particular is set on bringing the city's technology to the 21st century. Our members then wonder why the current recommendations prohibit a technology that will clean up our storefronts, provide new revenue streams for the city, and allow for a more dynamic interaction between our businesses and their customers. Instead of a full prohibition, we should base our on-site digital guidelines on our 2013 agreement that created a fair set of restrictions, balancing the desires of our neighborhoods with the needs of our businesses. The businesses that we represent are not asking for a Wild West situation with no rules. They have compiled regulations on size, location, brightness, and hours of operation. Digital signs are not the root of the problem. They are far easier to adapt and change to accommodate the needs of neighbors as well as the businesses using them. We urge you to propose an on-site digital sign standard that understands the reality of doing business in 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Bowling, Benjamin Hanlon, Rabbi Jonathan Klein, and Gary Cook.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Bowling, and I'm here representing the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. Over the past 36 years, we have performed in theaters throughout the city, and with our live music program, we have performed and facilitated anti-bullying and LGBT history presentations in many high schools throughout Los Angeles. I'm here today to support advancing a sign ordinance. So Los Angeles sign companies have a long history of working with the community and organizations like ours, providing us with a valuable promotion opportunities to support our mission by providing musical experiences that strengthen our role as a leader in the LGBT community and exposing new communities to our mission of equality. With the signs being dark for a while now, we have felt the impact with the lack of this important resource. So that's why GMCLA encouraged you to take action and use the new ordinance to provide community benefit and to support valuable opportunities for digital resources to support communities like ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Jonathan Klein, Gary Cook.
Hi, Rabbi Jonathan Klein from Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. And like so many before me, it's pretty clear that that this is a good thing to move forward. The city is in deep need of the revenues that this ordinance will ultimately generate. You know, we were able to pass a minimum wage increase in this city, and there was a lot of discussion about how we were going to move it so quickly, and it moved, and ultimately it resolved itself. We've been having this conversation for such an unbelievable amount of time. From our perspective, monies that could provide good jobs at the city, money that could provide good jobs for building trades workers and others in the industry, that money is being left on the table. It's time we move this thing forward. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Cook, Elizabeth Shapiro, Cindy Starrett.
Councilman, my name is Gary Cook. I'm with UA Plumbers Local 78, and we stand in support of this. I have 2,000 members, and most of them are residents of LA City, so we appreciate the support.
Thank you. Elizabeth Shapiro, Cindy Starrett.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Shapiro, speaking on behalf of BizFed, the Los Angeles County Business Federation, a grassroots alliance of 140 major business organizations representing 268,000 businesses with 3 million employees throughout the county. I'm here to express support for the outdoor advertising industry's efforts to work with the city to find a legislative solution for digital signs in the city of Los Angeles. For businesses, community organizations, and public agencies in neighborhoods across the city, billboards and digital signs are important tools for advertising, marketing, public communication, and community engagement. Digital billboards offer an opportunity to change messages in real time, making it possible for advertisers, law enforcement, and other public safety agencies to rapidly reach large audiences quickly and efficiently with important and sometimes life-saving messages. We recognize the long history of this issue, and we encourage the City Council and staff to work with the industry to restore the use of digital signs and craft a policy for the fair and reasonable use of digital signs, and in a timely manner. This will ensure that valued community partners are able to continue supporting the civic and business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Miller, James Carpentier, and Roy Flahive.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'm Cindy Sterrett from Latham & Watkins. We agree that revisions should encourage a substantial reduction in existing signs, create real community benefits, and a new digital sign process. We ask that the CLA's report move forward into ordinance language. As to the CPC, we respectfully disagree as to the necessity to return there, since the Commission considered digital issues over multiple hearings. However, we ask that any referral have a date certain to avoid more delay. Signage provides a unique opportunity for public benefits, for economic improvements, for job creation, at a time when all of those things are very much needed in the City of Los Angeles. We also ask that revisions to Virgin A consider tolling of penalty provisions, as we've requested for some time now. Right now the penalties reach $50,000 a day, which impacts First Amendment rights. We ask that only sign owners can apply to relocate existing signs on the same property, and that there be flexibility so alternative benefits can be provided for aesthetics and traffic safety, not just sign reduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Miller, James Carpentier, Roy Flahive. Stacy Miller's not here. James Carpentier.
Hello, James Carpentier here on behalf of the International Sign Association and the California Sign Association, and also the On-Site Sign Coalition, LA Chamber of Commerce, VICA, CCA, Greater LA New Car Dealers, Motion Picture Association of America, BOMA, California Restaurant Association. And first of all, I'd like to say we are really in support of almost all of the provisions of this on-premise portion of the sign regulations, because that's what we represent, is the on-site section of this ordinance. But there is one section that we ask that you instruct staff to strike. There's a section 14.4.4 general provisions B, prohibited signs, section 11, which prohibits on-site digital signs except for in tier 1 or tier 2 sign districts. We believe that that section just is not reasonable and ask that it be stricken from the draft. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roy Flahive, Ed Wasserman, John Howland, Michael Gagan.
Good afternoon. Roy Flahive, Executive Director of the California Sign Association. The association has represented the sign industry in California and the sign users for the last 56 years. I echo what James from the International Sign Association indicated. We strongly support the citywide sign ordinance that's proposed, with a caveat that section 14.44, section 11 be stricken, and we ask that the ordinance that we had addressed and come to an agreement on in 2013 be consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Wasserman, John Holland.
Good afternoon. Ed Wasserman with the California Sign Association, also with the On-Site Sign Coalition. As mentioned, our coalition includes numerous representatives of the business community, Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, VICA, CCA, Greater New Car Dealers, Motion Picture, California Restaurant Association, as well as the International Sign Association. We oppose any prohibition on on-site electronic signs within the city. Such a prohibition is unnecessary, as there is no proliferation on on-site electronic signs in the city. Rather than prohibiting this important tool, we respectfully request that you work with the private sector and honor the agreement that we came to in 2013, which created appropriate time, place, and manner restrictions that protect our neighborhoods and our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. John Holland.
Good afternoon. I'm John Howland with CCA. I'd like to echo the sentiments of the on-site sign coalition who spoke before me, but would like to focus my comments on sign district grandfathering. CCA believes the currently proposed amendment requiring sign districts to comply with the new sign reduction and community benefits requirement is not equitable. As you know, many of these sign districts have been in the queue for many years, and it is unfair to change the requirements at this point. We recommend that the grandfathered sign districts be allowed to comply with the sign reduction and community benefit provisions of the existing ordinance, which govern the establishment of sign districts when grandfathered sign districts were initiated and or applied for. Not only is this use of the current sign reduction and community benefits a matter of fairness to the proponents of the various grandfathered sign districts, it's also a matter of fairness to the surrounding communities, which will be able to continue to have the flexibility to determine what public benefits best promote aesthetics and traffic safety in their neighborhoods. CCA believes the entitlement process should be predictable. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Gagan, Reverend William Smart, Louis Becker, Wendy Sue Rosen.
Good afternoon, and I filled out a substitute speaker card for my partner Michael Gagan, who had to leave. I'm Steve Catalano here representing the Greater Los Angeles New Car Dealers Association, who didn't really even know that there was an issue with on-site digital signs, and so we find that those are very useful tools for the auto dealerships, very useful signage for them. So we respectfully request that you follow the recommendations of the On-Site Sign Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend William Smart? Not here. Lois Becker, Wendy Sue Rosen.
Hi, I'm Lois Becker, and I am here today on behalf of Bel Air Skycrest Property Owners Association. You know, it would be really nice if the city would stop taking 2 steps backward for every 1 step forward. Please vote no on these amendments. Tell the lobbyists to pack up their carpet bags, and let's move ahead with the sign ordinance LA so desperately needs. Thank you.
Wendy Sue Rosen, Marion Dodge, Joyce Foster.
I'm here representing Brentwood Residents Coalition. I'm asking that you vote no on the billboard amnesty and the CUP process to allow additional signs. The billboard industry should not be exempted from complying with city codes when other businesses and individuals are cited and prosecuted for violating city laws. This is a giveaway. In fact, the city attorney has sent a letter to the city officials saying that the code is enforceable against the billboards lacking permits and in violation of their permits. He also offered his office's resources to aid this enforcement effort. If amnesty is approved, billboard companies will then use those signs that you legalize as takedown, which gives us really no takedown. And if we're going to do takedown, it should be 4-to-1, not 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. I think we've heard a lot about reasonable sign policy. We have a reasonable sign ordinance. It was debated for 6 years, 7 years. Tom Rothman went through it. We support that ordinance as is. It's in the interest of time. We should pass that ordinance, send these additional provisions back. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion Dodge, Joyce Foster, Phil Recht.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Marion Dodge, president of Hillside Federation. I'm reading excerpts from the Los Angeles Times editorial. This week, city council members will begin debating whether to make Los Angeles uglier. How? By eviscerating a proposed ordinance that would sharply curtail where new, bright, blinking digital billboards can be installed. Instead, they're considering allowing sign companies, which spend generously on local political campaigns, to put up billboards pretty much wherever, whenever they want, if they can persuade city officials to sign off on the permits. To make matters worse, some council members want to ignore the advice of their own city attorney and grant amnesty to hundreds of questionably legal billboards that might otherwise be taken down. The planning department and the city attorney's office crafted a reasonable, thoughtful proposal. The plan may have been reasonable, but the council wasn't satisfied. Its Planning and Land Use Committee asked staff to report, and please, no amnesty and no permits. You can read the full thing, it's in your file. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce Foster, Phil Recht, Lee Wallach.
Hi, I'm Joyce Foster. I was a member of the Building and Safety Commission for 8.5 years, several years ago. That was where I got my first introduction into the billboard industry. I found that the billboard industry does its business through litigation. Whenever they're asked to follow enforcement, they litigate. Therefore, the billboards stay up, they make a lot of money, and really the city runs out of interest or time. Giving amnesty to billboards that are unpermitted or illegal is absolutely an insult to the citizens of this city, the businesses of this city that do business, and the citizens that follow the law. Giving amnesty to illegal billboards is really, it's insane. Also, I hope that we will limit digital billboards to only sign districts. We are selling the visual environment of our city. Money, I hear people, today I've been sickened by hearing all these people saying it's money. It doesn't. A billboard doesn't bring jobs. And if the city needs money, there's other ways to get it other than selling our environment. Thank you.
Phil Recht, Lee Wallach, Keith Stevens.
Thank you. Phil Recht on behalf of Summit Media. We're not here today to state a position on whether there should be digital signs outside sign districts. We're here to say it's impossible to tell what's being proposed in the CLA report. For example, will digital signs be allowed both on public property and private property, or only private property? What specific findings will be required to get a CUP? Will there be caps? And if so, what are they? What will the specific revenue sharing requirements be? And when revenue comes in, will it go to the city general fund or be split among the districts? The CLA report recommends that the report go to the city attorney's office for drafting, but without answer to these and dozens of other questions, the city attorney's office simply can't do that. The better approach is to refer this to the planning department, let it get stakeholder input, develop a specific proposal, which can then be drafted up by the city attorney's office, and then go to the planning commission as required under the charter for review. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lee Wallach.
That's your response.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you. Lee Wallach. I'm with the Motor Avenue Improvement Association. We're a small little street in a very dense area of Palms, but we've been hit by this issue. We have many illegal billboards. We have electronic billboards. We have others that have been obsolete and can't and will not be taken down. And we've called and we've called. Now we have an issue of some really inappropriate content. American Apparel ads, we've all seen them. I don't think they should be hovering over our kids' playgrounds. We should make sure that they're at least, 500,000 feet away from these schools. We need some sane regulation. No one is against jobs. No one's against advertising. We just want solid, sane regulation that both the community and businesses can look to. The digital billboards should stay in business corridors. They shouldn't be near schools. Amnesty, you know what? If you pass that, I got a few parking tickets that I'm going to come talk to you guys about. So I think you got to, think about this really carefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keith Stevens, Wayne from Encino, and Herman.
Hi, Keith Stevens. I'm a resident of Los Angeles and a billboard developer here in the city for the last 30 years. While I support the direction that the commission is going, or it seems to be going, I'd like to point out that relocation without allowing for community benefit signs in addition, or signs to be built for community benefit in addition to that, imposes an artificial cap, and it adversely impacts what property owners can get in rent for their property. Thank you.
Wayne?
Yes, tear them all down. They put them up, you tear them down. Don't belong. Unpermitted, unwanted, light blight. I don't want them. Just tear them down. And I know that you can't do something simple because you got campaign donations standing in the way of what the people want. Jobs. Listen to these people. It's going to create jobs. That's what everything is. If this was 1933, you'd be arguing Hitler taking the Sudetenland creates jobs. Everything is jobs. No, it's not jobs. It's tear down those pieces of crap. Shut it down. Get rid of it. Then when you want to put a sign up, you get a permit first before you break ground. Screw your amnesty. Shut them off.
Herman, Gregory Wright, Ray Baker.
Betrayal, treason, blight, eyesores. How much more do you want to hear from the public? Back in the days when you made this ordinance for signs and graffiti all munched together, this is what you brought the public. Bullshit. We don't want this eyesore in our neighborhoods blinding us while we drive, while we smoke a joint at the park and we light up. Right? So we're telling you, this gentrification in areas where only the all-white jury get to see the bright white lights, no. It comes into our poor neighborhoods. So we stand out. Mr. Weezar, you forget, I was on that ordinance. I'm the one who told you, tear down the goddamn billboards because we don't want the blight in our neighborhoods. And this is in a poor neighborhood. And now all the white people here are telling you, tear down your shit. They don't want it. Go back and replay your planning commission.
Gregory Wright and Christine Peters.
Hello, I'm Gregory Wright. My main concern is energy. In our carbon-constrained world, there is absolutely no justification to allow so much energy to be consumed by this city's and this over-commercialized country's millions of billboards. And I'm referring to both static and digital billboards. I respectfully ask the Council to work with the Department of Water and Power to conduct an accurate survey to assess just how much electrical energy is being consumed by billboards, both digital and static, and to publicly report this information before taking any action that will increase the number of billboards or restore any billboards to our city. We're either serious about this heating up world we live in or we're not. I also ask for your serious consideration of instituting light curfews to keep the billboards off for as many hours as possible for the whole multitude of reasons you've heard. And check out urbanwildlands.org to read about the effects of light pollution on wildlife and the environment. Please do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Peters from CD13.
Good afternoon, council members. Christine Peters, Council District 13. Here today to support draft version A. In particular, we'd like to recommend that the amendment relating to permitting adjustments for digital displays on historic cultural monument buildings and establishing digital sign districts is an important component since it will allow greater flexibility for developing digital sign programs that do not detract from the historical character of the building and help to create a more fair signage environment that does not penalize those who have sought to preserve their historic buildings. In Hollywood, we have a number of historic buildings that have spent millions of dollars and countless of hours maintaining these historic buildings, and we want to make sure that they're able to sensitively monetize their properties in a way so that they continue to maintain them and their historic cultural status. Also, we would like to recommend that perhaps we look further into taking some of the downtown incentives for historic resources and see how that might work in Hollywood as well, since they have very similar situations with preservation and adaptive reuse incentives. And also in regard to the amnesty issue, we would recommend that we proceed with an abundance of caution in this area. So many of those unpermitted or out-of-compliance signage are in some of our smaller, more historic neighborhoods like Echo Park, Eagle Rock, Silver Lake, and Glass Hill Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. That concludes our public comment period, and I'd like to now open it up for discussion. If I could ask planning staff to please come back to the table for some discussion and questions. And first, if I could start off by asking, you submitted option A and option B today, and you've recommended that since the Citywide Planning Commission has not reviewed some provisions of option A, the recommendation is to refer that back to the Citywide Planning Commission for further consideration. And what type of timeline can we expect if we refer those items back to the Citywide Planning Commission?
it's a little difficult to say. We did request a sign unit help us out with all of these changes. It would require a whole new ordinance. I mean, we could just take out those provisions and write a new staff report with revisions to the sign code with those changes, the changes for the conditional use and the off-site signs. But it would take usually it takes about 60 days to draft an ordinance and then 60 days for outreach and public comment before we bring it to the City Planning Commission.
So if we were to refer something to the City Planning Commission, it's not just a referral and a hearing and back to Plum? I thought that would be
we're going to have to, I mean, this City Planning Commission has actually not seen any of this ordinance, so I think we're going to probably need to give them a full background on what the ordinance does and what these changes would imply. So, there is no ordinance right now for there's a complete ordinance that entails versions A and B. We can pull it out, but I think we're going to have a staff report and then do our 60-day public notification. Just
there would have to be a 60 notification. So after your 60-day, well, you have to draft the report first, right?
Right. We don't have a report.
And then you would have to do public notification, go out, do some outreach, 60 days.
Correct.
And then
hopefully
they could hear it.
Right.
And then come back to Plum. Our intent is, I think there's a sense of wanting to move forward. We've been hearing the sign ordinance for some years now in this council, and so we have some, and we've accomplished a lot to this point, but whatever we do today, we would like to see us moving forward in some fashion. So we're trying to figure out how quickly, if we do that, to be back here and continue to move forward. So let's just continue to have the discussion and see what the recommendation is. Mr. Englander?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I couldn't agree more. And maybe there's a way to look at it from a different perspective. First, I want to acknowledge all those that came out to speak today. The council chambers is packed. This is certainly of interest to many, many people. And in listening to, and I just want to acknowledge them, these are the supporters that I heard show up and the phone calls and the emails that we got. But just here today, we had numerous business leaders, labor, both workers and trades, the clergy from various congregations, nonprofit organizations, cultural organizations, athletic organizations, the film industry, advocacy organizations, the media, auto dealers, and the Auto Dealers Associations, restaurants and the Restaurant Association, hotels, retail, chambers, BizFed, and CCA. Those are the ones that I heard all saying move something forward. The ones I want to also acknowledge are the ones that want to protect their community in blight. And those that came out to speak and saying no more. Where I see this and the conversation, the dialogue, quite frankly, that has occurred thus far is exactly that. The idea that there's a removal program, an exchange program. There's a program where putting up and actually coming up with a comprehensive plan and proposal and ordinance to allow first, and I will bifurcate these, and this is where I'm going with this, digital on-site versus digital off-site. Each would require a significant takedown, much more so than just one-to-one on digital is what's being proposed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so, Mr. Herman, you're going to yell out again. I'm going to ask you to be removed from council chambers. This is a pretty important issue. With that, I will tell you right now, in talking to many of my residents and the constituents in my district, and we have probably the fewest number, quite frankly, of signs. They can't stand them. They don't want them. They would much rather, and the ones I've talked to, saying if there's some kind of proposal to take down these static signs, particularly in talking to a lot of, and just, again, rattling off the list that came here to speak today, many of those folks, all in my district as well, of the same types of associations, organizations, and interest, have all said these digital boards can be used for emergencies, for, and somebody mentioned earlier, Amber Alert type programs. One of the things we've been pushing that was just rejected by the state of California was putting up another hit and run alert program on freeways. And what other cities have done successfully is putting, we have 20,000 hit and runs here in the city of Los Angeles. Those aren't accidents, those are crimes. Those are people who are cowards that are leaving people on the side of the road to die like a wounded animal. And no way to get the information to people at a moment's notice. Out of 40,000 traffic collisions each year, half of them are hit and runs. If we had the ability with digital signs to put that information out in communities and not overpopulate the message, but we can target it geographically, it would be a huge public safety benefit. So you look at all the benefits of, okay, take down and getting rid of a lot of the blight that's throughout all of our neighborhoods and the ability to provide these. This is missing that piece for digital off-site. What I would like to see, Mr. Chair, is maybe there's a way to bifurcate this because of the time frame as well that you're articulating. Perhaps moving the option B to the CPC, or I mean to the APC, or to the CPC.
Version B has the lesser...
I'm sorry, version A, correct. Version A to the CPC.
The full council. Version A would have to go back to the city.
Version A, and I wanted to get into some of the issues that were brought up too, and I'll come back to that after my time is up on this, tolling and other fees. But on version A, rather, sending that to the Planning Commission with, and I believe that wouldn't require as much time if it was just that portion being sent. And I think that 60-day time frame would be reasonable for them to review it. And then concurrently at the same time, and I'm just throwing this out there for discussion, not a proposal, but it could form into a proposal based on public discussion. Concurrently at the same time, while that's going, and that's taking care of a big piece in terms of on-site, is having a proposal come back drafted by the planning department for a full comprehensive plan of digital off-site with significant takedown protections, community protections, and light, design, all of the elements that you've already crafted as well, but to consider it for off-site, and have that proposal come back on a separate track, so at least we're moving things forward and protecting the communities and providing public safety opportunities that I see these bringing. If there's a way to do that, why don't you walk us through it? What would be perhaps either the benefits of doing that, since we don't have a comprehensive plan, and maybe there's a Chicago model, and we've identified and looked at and had the discussions, quite frankly, ad nauseum over the last several years of revenue sharing and benefits to this city, where we don't have to raise taxes, where we don't have to keep increasing fees, and we can, if they're on public property, not just private property, if there's a proposal for that, as other cities have done very, very successfully with, again, a very comprehensive takedown program, so we clean up a lot of this blight and allow these opportunities, as all of these organizations have articulated so well that we need. If you can walk us through how that could occur.
Okay. Well, if I'm not sure exactly. If you wanted to bifurcate the version A, is that what you were saying, to bring the?
No. So version B, forget version. Version A would be moving.
You wanted to return the entire ordinance in its entirety with everything that we've talked about, including the amnesty and the conditional use permit. We could bring the entire package back to the City Planning Commission and have them provide.
So what I'm suggesting is on version A, it goes back to the CPC since it's required to do so now.
Right.
Forget version B for a moment. I'm more interested and focused on version A.
I know it's a little confusing. Version A and B are essentially the same thing, just that there's a few more things in version A.
Right, so version A moving back to the CPC, okay. But what's not in version A is digital offsite, a full program.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think what Mr. Englander is asking is that the issue of offsite digital with a significant takedown, if the planning department could come up with some report so that we can discuss that, but he is asking for your opinion as to what is the best process for that to take place. For example, he is Mr. England is suggesting we send Ordinance A back to CPC because there's some items in there that have not been reviewed by the CPC. I was going to recommend actually that we move forward with B and ask the city attorney to draft an ordinance and come back. But let's say that's the framework. What Mr. Englander is asking is for the digital offsite with significant takedowns. Can we get a report from the planning department concurrently with A, sending that back to CPC for them to review. Would that be
Yes, we could do that.
possible? Okay, so we could do that then. Okay.
And they would travel together.
And travel together, and so we wouldn't have to
As
wait.
a recommendation from this committee.
Yeah, whether it was B going to the full city council or A going to CPC, keep that separate for a moment, and we'll whatever we decide to do on those. But yes, concurrently at the same time, actually drafting a comprehensive proposal for digital offsite with significant takedown and other opportunities and the community protections that come along with that.
And did we
develop that plan?
Sure, now I understand what you're saying. Did we also want to talk about some of the conditional use permit process and the amnesty? Because
I think we should need to get into that as well.
Okay, those are some significant legal issues that I think that the City Planning Commission is going to have to grapple with. So I don't know how quickly that will come back to plumb after this. I think the main point of the bifurcating the version A and B was so that the City Planning Commission would have isolated issues that have legal ramifications for them to grapple with, whereas the easy stuff could move along. That's why we kind of presented it this way to you.
Great, thank you. And as I mentioned, we have been hoping to move this as quickly as possible, and we became aware that some of these items had not been heard by CBC. I think your recommendation, we will suggest hearing from Mr. Englander, and Mr. Cedillo could come in at any time if he so chooses on this issue of sending back A to the Citywide Planning Commission for further review. But the issue of having it timely heard is very important. So with the concurrence of my colleagues, if 60 days, asking a 60-day review and hopefully come back to this committee would be greatly appreciated. The idea would be if we also send version B to the city attorney to begin preparing the final sign district ordinance, that we would eventually come back into Plum and combine those two here so that we wouldn't have bifurcated sign ordinances here and there, and whatever comes from CPC, we'll hear that here again in Plum. That's the hope that we would accomplish here. There is also an issue from a letter that we received from Council District 9 today that we hope could be included in version B. It's if we send version B to the City Attorney's Office with amended Tier 1 sign district restrictions as requested by Council District 9 regarding off-site signs in Exposition Park, a state park, if we could include that in there with that one amendment. So I think the overall framework that we're heading to is send back A to CPC, version B to the City Attorney for a final ordinance. As we send A to CPC, include an additional analysis as recommended by Mr. Englander on the off-site digital with significant takedown, and include in B to the City Attorney the CD9 issue of Exposition Park. I will also go a little bit later into some more, if that is the wish of this committee, more detailed suggestions as to be, so we can be very clear what's in A, what we're sending there, and what's in B and what we're sending there. We could do that if that is the direction we're going. Mr. Cedillo?
Mr. Chair, I thank you for that direction. I concur. Let me say that for some, or for many, this is neither the beginning of the world or the end of the world. And there's a lot of people here, and this is very controversial, but it's time for us to move forward, Mr. President. And that we should think about process as accommodating the substance, and where the substance is prepared to move forward, as appears in item B, that we should go ahead and move that to the City Attorney so that they can begin the work, so that then we can do the evaluations of that. With respect to item A, then we should move that forward to the CPC. So I concur. I think one thing I've learned in the 2 years I've been on the council is that people want us to be definitive, and that ultimately if they don't like the decisions we make, they'll let us know. If they do like them, they'll let us know. But I think what drives most people crazy in the city is the fact that we're not definitive, and that things meander. And I think one of the first things we did when under your leadership when I got here was we moved the mural ordinance, and I know that's a part of this, also the pre-86, and I think that now is the time for us under your leadership to move forward as you've laid the groundwork.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Englander, anything else?
If you want to just walk us through the amnesty stuff.
Okay. Would you like to hear from the planning department on the amnesty issue? Okay. If you could, Mr. Englander's interested in hearing on the amnesty provision and how that is being proposed at this time.
Sure. That is in the version A, and that talks about legalizing about 937 signs that the Department of Building and Safety has deemed illegal because they have a lack of a permit, or their permit has been, or their new sign does not comply to their existing permit. So there's two halves. There's the 500 and something illegal signs that have no permit, where I think the enforcement would be, the burden of proof would come on the city because of the city attorney's rebuttable presumption memo that came out early this year that says if a sign has been up for more than 5 years, the burden of proof falls onto the city, and it's very, it'll be very complicated for us to prosecute and investigate 500 and some odd signs. There are the 300 and some odd that do have a permit, but that do have some, either an addition, we granted them whatever, 20 square feet, and now they've got 40 square feet, or they're double pasted, whereas they only had a single paste permit. Those are have a little bit of better chance of being investigated and prosecuted, but it would be a huge burden for the Department of Building and Safety to initiate. So I think from previous hearings we've had with Plum that we were going to grant amnesty to all 937 and then start the slate all over again.
And I think that more falls along the lines of the city attorney opinion that we've received as well. And
correct.
So I support that as well. Thank you very much.
From February 20th of this year.
Well, his latest letter of June 26th.
All right, there's two, yes. Correct.
Which reaffirms this position, correct. Adds clarity. Okay. I'm good with that. Thank you. And I think it's important that we mention that again, because a lot of people have taken amnesty on these signs a totally different way and been interpreted. And of course, different city attorneys have interpreted it different ways. But now the city attorney has actually put on his letterhead codifying that, or it's opining on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Englander. So given that, what we will recommend it with the concurrence of my colleagues, is to refer version A to the Citywide Planning Commission and request or instruct the Planning Department to further develop proposed policies and standards from the joint report, as well as items that have not been vetted by the CPC, and including the on-site relocation of existing signs, the appropriate enforcement for existing non-conforming billboards, the historic facade sign adjustments, the pre-1986 mural signs, and the appropriate review process or standards for on-site digital displays, and also the, as recommended by Mr. Englander now, we could actually add that in whatever way you deem appropriate to do the further analysis on the off-site digital with significant takedowns. So that is going to the Citywide Planning Commission, and we're also requesting that the city attorney begin preparing final sign districts, the final sign district ordinance based on version B, with the amended Tier 1 sign district restrictions as requested by Council District 9 for Exposition Park. I also just want to clarify that as we refer that to the city attorney's office, that there were some grandfathered sign districts. The newer versions, or it was the intent at that time to have those conditions applied to those grandfathered districts when that was adopted, so the newer conditions do not apply to the grandfathered sign districts. I think that was the intent when we took action unless the city attorney reaching for his microphone has something.
Yes, I just wanted clarification. When you say sign districts ordinance, you're talking about the criteria for new sign districts and not any particular sign district?
Yes,
Okay.
just the overall policy on it, yes. Okay, so with that,
And
anything else?
Just to be clear, Councilman, on the options on the joint report, we're going with option 2, which is being referred to the City Planning Commission on the digitals.
Yes.
Yes.
You're just reconfirming the language we're using in the reports and the numbers. Yes. Mr. Englander?
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks for approving my amendment and accepting that. And as that I support all of that, as well as that comprehensive report on the digital offsite with the significant takedowns, but also, again, to ensure that we look also at the revenue sharing opportunities as well, and whether those are for PSAs or public safety related, whatever that nexus might be that have been done successfully, and study other municipalities that have done similar programs.
Councilmember Englander, that directive was previously given in this committee to the CAO.
Yes.
So that's a pending report back.
I'm well aware. I want to make sure that it's not lost, because it was supposed to come back with this one and didn't, so well aware. Yeah, thank you. It's been given a couple times. So now again, probably I think a third time, but yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And so with that, hold on just a second. We had some cards here, but I think no, we heard those items already. Thank you. And so with that, that'll be the direction of the committee. Now, we are giving, I just want to be clear that we are not adopting everything today. We are moving and progressing on this. We're going to get back the city attorney ordinance. We'll hear back from the Citywide Planning Commission on version A and those items that we discussed in 60 days, and eventually would like to combine these two back in Plum in 60 days and take the next step from there. But no decision has been made. This is all still consideration. I want to be clear from that, because I think some reports were out there that we decided on some of these items and we haven't made those decisions, but we want to move forward as quickly as possible. Beginning of September, is that 60 days, July? Yeah, beginning of September. And I'll get a new sign ordinance for my birthday. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes this item. Thank you. Next item.
Next item, Councilman, is item 5, which is a closed session item.
Oh, okay. Why don't we go save item 5 as the last item and move to
Item
other
6.
remaining item. Item 6.
Yes, item 6 contains 6 appeals, and it relates to the expansion of the Archer School in CD 11 and the various land use entitlements requested.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the planning department here on item 6? You could give us a brief overview on this item, please?
Yeah. Hi, Adam Villani, Department of City Planning. Chairman Weezar and honorable members of the committee. This is the Archer School for Girls. Well, it's the Archer Forward project. It's a 20-year development plan for a campus of 518, capped at 518 students, all girls, in Brentwood on Sunset Boulevard. And it's for a total of 150,262 square feet, including a main building, a north wing, a multi-purpose facility, a performing arts center, and a visual arts center. It was, and along with a number of conditions and findings that were made there, it was approved by the City Planning Commission on April 23rd of this year, and 6 appeals were filed. The department has reviewed the appeals, and we recommend that the Planning and Land Use Management Committee deny the appeals. We have modified conditions that we submitted to the city clerk, modified conditions and findings. And beyond that, I'm here for any questions that you have.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else to add? Okay. Thank you for that presentation. We'll go to public comment now. We do have quite a number of comment cards, even more so than the sign ordinance. So if you could keep your comments short and to the point, that would be greatly appreciated. We oftentimes begin with, or not oftentimes, we always begin with the appellants first. I understand we've had a number of appellants here. I've got my card, got one or two cards. We'll clear that up right now. But if we could start with Douglas Carstens, and the appellants each have 5 minutes. The applicants have 5 minutes, and each public speaker thereafter has 1 minute, or have 1 minute. Thank you. Welcome. City Clerk, can you come up here meantime? Well, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman and Council members. My name is Douglas Carstens. I am here on behalf of appellants David and Sophia Wright. We filed our appeal. We submitted an additional letter yesterday to expand upon the appeal. We understand that the applicant also submitted some information yesterday. Because of all this late information, and we also understand there's some negotiations, in view of the negotiations, the additional information, etc., we ask that this matter be continued in order that discussions can come to fruition, or new information can be understood, processed, and analyzed. If this moves forward, we ask that you do not approve it today. It cannot be approved. There are legal violations that would occur under the current proposal. The first of them is the Performing Arts Center. It has to be removed or scaled way back. It does not comply with the residential RE11 maximum floor area ratio standards. It is coming in at about 80% lot coverage when the maximum is 35%. That's a violation of the Los Angeles Municipal Code. There are also violations of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is a Bill of Rights for an environmental democracy. It's California's premier environmental law. It requires an adequate analysis of alternatives, and it requires a reasonable range, including on and off-site alternatives. If feasible, less damaging alternatives exist, no statement of overriding considerations is possible. Here there is a feasible and less damaging alternative in the form of Alternative 2, development under the existing conditional use permit. 11 homeowners associations have supported that officially, and that would be a good choice for today. Our client has actually offered $100,000 to study alternatives that accommodate expansion to the standards set in the California Guide to School Site Development. Under that guide for standard school site development, a 500-person school needs about 11 to 24 acres. This school has 7 acres. It would be substandard for the proposal that is sought. Also under CEQA, no overriding considerations can be approved if there are feasible mitigation measures. We are asking you today to eliminate or reduce the Performing Arts Center, to eliminate Saturday field use, to eliminate varsity games on the athletic fields, and to eliminate the garage construction. Garage construction generates a huge amount of the construction traffic, which leads to the impacts that are significant and being overridden. CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act, also requires that when there is significant new information, the EIR be recirculated. This is under 15088.5 of the guidelines implementing CEQA. In this case, the compression of the construction schedule from 6 or 5 years down to 3 years is going to create new and more intense impacts. It will require overlapping in the construction phases. It will require construction equipment to be operating at the same time where it had not been contemplated before. That will intensify the emission of toxic diesel pollutants. It will affect the residences nearby. It will affect the school children on the campus. There is also new information in the form of guidance from the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. Since March 2015, it has required that sensitive receptor analysis be 3 times more protective than the analysis that was conducted with this EIR using the outdated methods of analysis. So with that new information, it should be developed, added in the EIR, and recirculated. We ask that the EIR include adequate information regarding the toxic emissions, regarding the new construction schedules. We ask that you include alternatives, analyzed both on-site and off-site, and then possibly move forward. But today we ask you to uphold the appeals, to deny the approval of this project, and just state adamantly that it cannot legally be approved. Appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Leslie.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Leslie, and I represent the Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association. And I'd like to just point out that what this appeal is not about is whether the community supports Archer, its educational goals, or its students. In fact, the community does broadly support Archer and its mission, and it certainly supports the girls that go to Archer, who will be some of our future leaders. The Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association was one of the groups that was strongly in support of Archer moving to its existing campus in the former Eastern Star home, subject, though, to the conditional use permit conditions that it currently operates under. As Archer has proudly claimed to the city and the community, Archer has been extremely successful in accomplishing its mission and in educating thousands of girls at its campus with its current facilities. Instead, this appeal is being brought to address whether the huge expansion project that Archer is proposing, which the EIR admits would cause significant impacts on the environment, traffic, and the Brentwood community, despite its deficiencies, should be permitted without significant modifications to eliminate those impacts. When Archer came to this community, it agreed to abide by the conditions in its conditional use permit, which have been expanded over time to give Archer even greater flexibility in operations. Yet Archer now is proposing a dramatic expansion which not only would be grossly out of character with its current location, but would also cause significant impacts on those who live, work, and drive through the Brentwood community on Sunset and other streets. Nobody here is asking that anything be taken away from Archer. The question is the scope of the expansion that should be allowed under Archer's CUP and whether it complies with the city's regulations and codes and whether the EIR is inadequate. And it doesn't meet those standards. As Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association has advocated, and as the Brentwood Community Council noted in its resolution opposing the proposed Archer Forward project, Alternative 2 under the EIR would allow for expansion of Archer, but within its current conditional use permit. Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association believes that is the only alternative that would mitigate the environmental impacts of the proposed project, and we would therefore request that you strongly consider and adopt that alternative. Brentwood Hills has been actively involved in the administrative review of the project, and I won't repeat, but we'll incorporate all of our previous records in the testimony of the public. We also support the points made in the other appeals in terms of the deficiencies in the EIR in the city's process. Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association is also an active member of the Brentwood Community Council, which, as I said, passed a resolution on February 3rd supporting Alternative 2 in the EIR, which would allow expansion in conformance with the current CUP. We respectfully request that the City Council disapprove the project as proposed for the reasons stated in our appeal and the other appeals, reject and recirculate the EIR to address its deficiencies, and overturn the decision of the City Planning Commission. I'd also like to echo Mr. Carson's that we understand that there have been some negotiations today between certain community groups, certainly not all, but some specific community groups and the Archer representatives to try to negotiate some additional conditions. We and the other community groups have not been involved in those discussions, although we've asked to be. We met with Archer yesterday and they didn't share the nature of those discussions with us, but to the extent that they're asking for there to be some significant modifications, or conditions or a covenant that would be agreed to. It needs to be shared with the community. It needs to be fully vetted through the city's process and with the community members. So we would ask that if you're not ready to overturn the decision of the City Planning Commission and send the EIR back for recirculation, that you continue this hearing today so that those important conditions can be shared with the rest of the interested members and appellants, and so that we can see whether some further dialogue can be had to narrow the issues. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your attention.
Rodney Lieber, another appellant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm awaiting some last-minute information from some discussions that are being had. I respectfully request we defer our appellant comment until that time. Is that possible?
I'm sorry, what's your request?
I'm awaiting information on some last-minute discussions that literally minutes away. I prefer to defer my comments at this moment until possibly, are you after public comment or after the...
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The only issue we have is if people start asking for the same request, we just have to take things in order. Wendy Sue Rosen, another appellant.
I'm here today representing Brentwood Residents Coalition. I want to not repeat the things that have already been said so as not to waste your time, and I concur with both the previous appellants. I want to just talk about a few things that are troubling to us besides the things that we submitted in our letter, and that is the toxins study. So the Archer technical study basically said that the measurement of the toxins for the site over a 6-year period of construction would be just below the level of what could be measured as going into a territory that would be considered concerning. Our experts said that it was already at the level of concerning. Both measurements are accepted by the state of California, but since the project has now been consolidated or expedited into 3 years with the girls in a different location that would be right next to staging and right next to an expedited construction schedule, no new study was circulated that we could find. And at the CPC, when we raised this issue and the City Planning Commission asked Archer, the attorney stood up and said it's the same result. But we would say that common sense would tell you, one, there's a new measurement in March which says sensitive receptors in elderly and children are now even more concerning than they believed. The measurement has, I believe, been changed, and we believe new studies need to be done. This is new information. This is an expedited construction schedule. This is a different location where the toxins may be in closer proximity, more consolidated, and we would ask that at least the data be updated since the construction schedule has been expedited and new information has been is now available that we have not seen, including the construction schedule or any details on a parking reservation system or any of the stuff that makes what Councilman Bonin said he has to have, which is in order for this to work. And he says it may even improve traffic, which is hard to believe since we are, at a driveway with no signal in the middle of Sunset, at the worst choke point, according to him, in the city, with increased enrollment, increased building size, increased athletics and special events. And if there's going to be any kind of a way to mitigate, we have to have the details of that. There's not been those details that have been distributed to us. So we would ask that these things be requested so that we can come back and have a real discussion about what the real impacts are of this project so that we can work on mitigating the impacts of whatever is approved so that it really does do what is required of the city, which is to look at the impacts of a project and make sure that the burden of that project is not put on the community that is going to, host that school. And I would just say again that I think that it's very telling that the state standards for a middle school and a high school like this would be something close to 20 or 27 acres, and this is 7 acres. So we are pushing into a very small space surrounded on 3 sides by residential dwellers, a very large institutional project, and the community welcomed Archer. We support a project. Alternative 2 works for us. Some other variations of that might work for us, but the project that is being proposed is hugely, hugely impactful for the community, and there's no way to look at this project and see all of the expansion and not know that this will be hugely, hugely impactful. So we ask also that you recirculate, that you require today a recirculation of the documents, that we update the studies, and we have a real honest conversation about what the impacts are so that they can be mitigated for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thelma Waxman. Also an appellant.
I respectfully ask to defer till after public comments as well because there's some negotiations going on and we're waiting to find out the results.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking for the applicant's card here. Don't have it.
Mr. Chair, you do have, I'm Cindy Starrett, you do have my card, but I believe there's one more appellant. I believe it's the Bel Air Skycrest Group. Perhaps you'd like to hear from them.
What's the name?
It's called Bel Air Skycrest.
Okay, thank you. Did you fill out a card? Yes. Okay, I don't have it in front of me, but go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Lois Becker, and my community of Bel Air Skycrest appealed the CPC decision primarily because, as Brentwood residents living on the border of Mulholland's so-called institutional corridor, we know firsthand the impacts experienced by those who live in a low-density residential zone side by side with conditionally permitted institutions like Archer. And I'm sorry to tell you that they are not compatible. These two are not compatible. Traffic, parking, safety, emergency access, air, noise, light pollution, and myriad other environmental factors contribute to a cumulative negative impact on residents, commuters, recreational users. This is not a criticism of the school. This is just a fact. And then there is the added burden of the community having to be the watchdog. Time and again, our residents have seen how CUP conditions, however carefully crafted, go unobserved and unenforced. And however socially valuable their contributions, there is always another side to these institutions whose goal is understandably to push the envelope as far as they can without regard for zoning, specific plans, etc., to grow beyond the capacity of their chosen but sadly inappropriate location. This project should not be approved both for the construction and operational impacts it will have and because of the terrible precedent it will set for the larger community. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the applicant, Cindy Starrett.
Mr. Chair, because there are a number of the appeals, if we could consolidate our response to those appeals, but I think we could get it done in about 15 minutes if that's possible.
The rules we have set is each applicant, each appellant has 5 minutes each. I will say because of the, you mean, who would you want to consolidate in the 15 minutes?
So on behalf of the applicant, we'll respond to all 6 appeals, tell you a little bit about the project, and then talk about the modifications that were mentioned and that Councilman Bonin has requested.
Okay, we usually don't allow for that, but since there are a number of appeals on this, usually we get 2 or 3, but there's 6 here, we'll allow for 10 minutes for the applicant to respond to the 6. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to start by asking Barbara Bruiser, who's the chair of the Board of Trustees, to tell you about Archer's commitments, and then I'll come back and talk about the details. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Bruiser. I chair the Board of Trustees of the Archer School for Girls. I'd like to thank the city planning staff for their hard work on this project. We appreciate your consideration of the plan and respectfully ask that you support the City Planning Commission's unanimous approval of the Archer Forward Plan and deny the appeals before you. The Archer School for Girls occupies a unique position in the educational landscape of Los Angeles. After the Westlake School for Girls merged with the Harvard School for Boys in 1989, our founders recognized the need for a non-sectarian girls' school on the West Side and established the Archer School for Girls with a mission to educate and empower the next generation of female leaders. We founded this school with a deep and abiding commitment to diversity and inclusivity, and this was fundamental to the original approach, and it continues to be fundamental to the operation of the school. We actively seek students from a wide range of ethnic, racial, and socioeconomic backgrounds who would otherwise never have access to an Archer education. We have always strived to reflect the face of greater Los Angeles, and Archer draws students from 91 zip codes. 39% of our students are students of color, and in the past year, Archer awarded over $3.2 million in financial aid to 25% of our families. While we love our historic building and are proud to be its devoted steward, we have had to cope with the tremendous limitations and costs of operating in a building that was designed as a nursing home. We spent millions of dollars busing girls all over the city because our athletic and performing arts facilities are simply inadequate. Archer girls and their teachers need classrooms with adequate space, technological infrastructure, functional heating and cooling. They need a home field and a gym space so their friends and their teachers can cheer them on. Archer girls need performance space large enough so their families can come and watch them sing, act, and dance. The Archer community needs a space where we can actually all come together indoors for assemblies and celebrations. Over the past 4 years, we have worked extremely hard to address neighbors' concerns and be responsive to Councilman Mike Bonin's suggestions and directives. We stand here before you with a plan that ensures a vibrant future for girls in Los Angeles and sets new standards for how schools and neighborhoods can coexist and work together. I'd now like to turn it back to Cindy Starrett from Latham & Watkins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Archer is already subject to one of the most stringent conditional use permits in the city, and we have faithfully complied. The CPC's approval imposes over 100 strict conditions and mitigation measures. Many are much stricter than the ones that we live under today. The approval protects our neighbors while allowing Archer to offer its unparalleled and empowering education for girls. We've substantially reduced the project's impacts in what's before you today. We've reduced the construction time frame. There are restrictions on peak hour traffic. The size of the project has been reduced. There are increased buffers and landscaping and numerous protections. And today, when you hear from the other two appellants and from the councilman's representative after I speak, I believe you'll hear about even more modifications intended to protect the community. We've submitted to you a briefing package, just a PowerPoint package like this. I'd just like to say a couple quick words about the project. Here on my right, you see on the far side an aerial photograph. When Archer was approved in the 1990s, it occupied a historic building, the Eastern Star Retirement Home for Women from the 1930s. Actually, Chinatown was filmed there. And you can see in the back they have a playing field, they have surface parking, the girls play volleyball outdoors and do sports on the sport court. The project on the right is the site plan for the project that's before you today. We maintain the historic front lawn in front of the historic building. There is a non-historic building called the North Wing in the back. We're replacing the classrooms in that building. The parking goes underground under the athletic field. That allows us to provide a gym for the girls. And by the way, there was a mention of the CUP that had been approved in the 1990s. It did allow for a 12,000 square foot gym, which is much too small from what we need. We are proposing a 2-level gym. The floor plate of that gym is about 20,000 feet, so it's a little bigger, but it's 2 levels, so both the middle school and the upper school can play sports. We are not increasing enrollment. We're keeping it the same. Right now our girls have to drive off campus to find sports facilities, to have facilities for the arts, and this will allow them to stay on campus and enhance our program and our offerings. We have a wonderful performing arts practice. It's now conducted in a basement. We'll have a performing arts center to do that. So it's a wonderful project. The net new square footage is about 70,000 square feet. It is not a massive project. That is not a correct characterization. In terms of responses to the appeals, most of the appellants are homeowners. They don't represent renters, local businesses, or other stakeholders. The Brentwood Community Council does represent those groups, and they are not appealing here today. We've worked with them. Among the 80 meetings that we've had in the last several years, the BCC has organized a number of those. To respond quickly to each of the appeals, the Bel Air Skycrest Property Owners Group does not live near the campus. They are up on Mulholland. In fact, their appeal talks about precedent for private schools up on Mulholland. Our precedent is stricter, so this should actually be a positive for them. The Wright appeal that Mr. Karstens spoke to, the Wrights are still disputing whether we should be here at all. They did offer us money to do a study to move away. They're saying girls shouldn't even be educated at Archer, much less opposing the facilities that we're adding. They did raise the issue about a new health risk assessment. The AQMD has recommended some changes. The city has not adopted those. We are proposing a measure that says before building permit, we'll comply with whatever the most current rules are on that, because we certainly want everyone to be safe, including the girls. So that's one of the modified conditions that you'll hear today. The Brentwood Residents Coalition that Ms. Rosen spoke to is not a neighborhood council. In fact, Ms. Rosen was very involved in many meetings on this project. The Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association, again, is not from this area. I did meet with them yesterday, and I told them that we were working closely with the Brentwood Homeowners Association, which is nearby, and that if we are able to move forward with further discussions with them before council, we'd be delighted to do that. Finally, as to the Waxman Residential Neighbors of Archer group, you haven't heard from them yet, nor have you heard from the Brentwood Homeowners Association. The councilman has encouraged us all to try to come up with additional modifications to address their neighborhood protection concerns, and those discussions are going on. I think you'll hear about those in a moment when they speak. I would like to speak, though, to the modifications that we submitted yesterday, and those we had worked out in response to the councilman's prior request. You should have a letter in front of you delivered June 29th, and the planning department has made some modifications to that, and so I believe Mr. Villani may have submitted to you a package of those modifications. Recognizing your time and the fact that you have more people to hear from, perhaps I should just hold the final 2 minutes here and come back and talk about those modifications and respond to the next two appellants after you hear from them, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Sure, thank you very much. Beth Doris and Eric Edmonds. Beth Doris, Eric Edmonds, Alan Schwartz. And can these maps be placed further to the left, please, so that we do not obstruct the view of the audience? You could either put them down if you've completed, no longer need them for your presentation, or you could put them up on the side over here, if you like. Have the same effect. Thank you. Okay, one minute for our public comments. Beth Doris, Eric Edmonds, and Ellen Schwartz.
Hi, my name is Ellen Schwartz. I live a few blocks from Archer. I'd like to remind everyone here that this hearing is not about the excellence of Archer's program, or diversity, or gender equality. It is about whether the scale and scope of its proposal is appropriate for the neighborhood. We are not against Archer. We are against the crushing impacts its proposed project will bring. Right school, wrong site. Thank you.
Eric Edmonds and Beth David's not here. Diana Meehan, Carol Velasquez, and Doug Phelps.
Good afternoon. I'm Diana Meehan. 20 years ago, with Megan Calloway and Vicki Shore, I co-founded the Archer School for Girls. I stand here on behalf of women leaders of Los Angeles in support of Archer, a group of leaders from the entertainment industry, business, education, civic affairs, and nonprofits who believe that Archer Forward is critical to preserving our important mission. These women include Eileen Adams, Gina Davis, Kathleen Kennedy, Ariana Huffington, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Roberta Weintraub, Barbara Streisand, Dr. Cheryl Saban, and many others. It's in our best interest to ensure that girls in our city receive a first-rate education to prepare them for the difficulties and challenges of tomorrow. This project will provide critical facilities to support girls from across LA in decades to come. Please join us in support of Archer Forward and deny all the appeals against the project, because when women and girls are educated, we all win.
Thank you. Carol Velasquez, Doug Phelps. Thank you.
Did you say Velasquez?
Yes.
My name is Carol Velasquez, and I'm an Archer parent. Archer is not a typical independent school. What really separates it from the rest is its diversity, from the different types of family structures to race and to the varying socioeconomic backgrounds. It can all be found right on our campus. The Archer population truly represents the city of Los Angeles. I'm so thankful that my daughter is able to connect with those who share her same background, and especially those who don't. I think that is what truly makes a great community anywhere. I hope you will allow the school to continue to grow. Please deny the appeals for the sake of future generations of Archer girls who come from diverse backgrounds and who deserve the valuable education that Archer will generously provide thanks to its scholarship program. Thank you. And if you are here on behalf of Archer, please I'll ask you to stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Phelps, Ann Hollister, Sidney Davis.
My name is Doug Phelps. My wife and I live at 555 South Barrington, just a couple blocks from the school. Every day going to and coming from work, my wife and I have to drive by the school. And I can tell you I couldn't be more supportive of the school. Whether the school's in session or not in session, we don't see any impact on the driving around the neighborhood. And personally, it's been wonderful for me. I like to play tennis. They've upgraded Barrington Park. The city couldn't do it, so I think the whole community is better because of their impact on Barrington Park, certainly. The girls around the neighborhood are wonderful, respectful in local businesses. You couldn't have a nicer group of kids around. And I certainly believe that great schools are part of great neighborhoods. And if I can support Archer to be a better school, I'm happy to do it. And as I just heard, with 91 zip codes, it's not a local Brentwood school. This is an LA school. A great school and great students have a far greater impact than just our neighborhood or our city. And to be part of that impact is an honor. Not to have a well, thank you. You know what side I'm on.
Thank you. Ann Hollister, Sidney Davis, Kukla Vera.
Hello, my name is Sidney Davis, and I'm an Archer student. As a new freshman at Archer, I was nervous about my first day of school. I've attended co-ed schools all of my life, so going to an all-girls school was very new to me. But on my first day of school, I knew I found a place where I could be myself. No one at Archer judges you based on your ethnicity, family structure, or socioeconomic status. Everyone is accepted as they are, which is so refreshing. Each day I walk into school and can't wait to see the faces of my sisters. If I'm having a challenging day, my sisters are always there to encourage me. I think it is common for teens to view school as a burden, but that isn't how many of my peers and I feel about Archer. We truly love our school and enjoy spending time there. Many of us even consider it our second home. I ask that you please allow my school to have the facilities they are asking for and to deny all the appeals. Thank you.
Thank you. Kukla Vera. Kukla Vera. Lauren Finkelstein or Stein. Catrice Monsoon or Monson. Valerie Yoshimura.
Hello, I'm Lauren Finkelstein, and I am an Archer alumna and a proud member of the Board of Trustees. When I first arrived at Archer, I was shy and not sure what to make of the world around me. 4 years later, I emerged a confident person, fearless, and ready to conquer the challenges that lay before me. The plan that sits before you now is much different than the original proposal. For the past 4 years, the school stayed true to its commitment to being a good neighbor, holding hundreds of meetings with neighbors and other community members and responding to their concerns by making significant changes to the plan. Our city needs more schools like Archer. I'm deeply honored to be a part of this community, a community that needs your support in order to ensure that it can continue to play a vital role in the lives of girls from all over LA for the years to come. Some of those today have suggested we're entitled, and they're right. We're entitled to make our school the best it can be. Please approve this plan and deny the appeals. Thank you.
Thank you. Catrice Monson, Valerie Yoshimura.
Good afternoon. My name is Catrice Munson, and I serve on Archer's Board of Trustees. As a Westlake graduate, I can speak firsthand to the importance of single-sex education. I was the student body president when it was announced that our school would be merging with an all-boys school, thus the end of our all-girls school experience. Thankfully, 4 years later, Archer filled this absence of a girls' school on the west side. Being educated at a single-sex school gave me the confidence and competence to be the woman I am today. I am now a labor relations executive who truly understands the value of sincere negotiation and compromise, something Archer has done throughout this long process. It is my great hope that you will approve this plan and deny the appeals so that girls throughout Los Angeles continue to grow and thrive on a campus that matches their unparalleled educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Yoshimura, Denny Lennon, Yvonne Hale.
Hello, my name is Dr. Valerie Yoshimura, and I'm a CD11 resident. We moved to the Brentwood area because of its excellent schools, both public and private. As any realtor will confirm, families to neighborhoods for great schools. Having a constellation of excellent schools in Brentwood is an asset for the community and for property values. But having a school that contributes positively to the community is even more important to me. I see Archer students doing community service along San Vicente, and the school has provided crossing guards for the community on the busy Sunset Corridor following the death of Julia, the young Harvard Westlake student. Everyone in the neighborhood benefits from those crossing guards. Additionally, Archer's stellar busing program significantly improves traffic and is great for the environment, and I think it's a model for every independent school in our city. As a neighbor, I support Archer's campus plan and ask that you support it and deny the appeals. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name's Denny Lennon. In the interest of time, I'd like to waive my testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Yvonne Hale, and in the interest of time, I'd like to waive my testimony.
Great, thank you. Luke Robertson, followed by Noah Ehrlich, followed by Malcolm Mumford.
Hi, my name is Luke Robertson, and in the interest of time, I'd like to waive my testimony.
Thank you. And whoever gets there first, it's fine. No problem. So Noah, Malcolm, Rebecca, Sitara, Hollis, Dorr.
Yes, I'm Rebecca Sitara K15, and I'm the parent of an Archer graduate. My daughter attended Archer for 5 years, and in that time she grew into a woman that she is today. Not only did Archer instill in my child passion, drive, and confidence, the school also gave her the skills to be a leader in her own right. Thankfully, my daughter followed her passion and has become an exceptional yoga instructor. After graduating from George Washington University, she is gratefully giving back to Archer students, where she has been hired to inspire the young girls on their journey to be wise and successful. As a parent, I couldn't be prouder. I believe this is due in large part to her Archer experience. There truly is no other school like Archer in Los Angeles, in the west side of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Please, I ask to deny the appeals. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, my name is Noah Ehrlich, and in the interest of time and all of our hungry stomachs, I'm going to waive my right to speak.
My name is Malcolm Mumford, and I have two daughters who compete for Archer's swim teams. Some say Archer has not made any real concessions, but I don't think that's true. I'm here to express my deep regret that one of the major concessions Archer made to the Brentwood community, eliminating the aquatic center. Because Archer doesn't have a pool on its campus, girls spend an hour each day commuting to and from practice, so they're only able to be in the pool 1 hour a day. Their competitors at other schools are in the pool 2 hours a day, twice as long. This means when championships come down to mere hundredths of a second, Archer girls are at a disadvantage because they don't have an aquatic center. This was a major concession, but I'm here to ask you to approve the other facilities that Archer is asking for so that these girls can get a 21st century education. Please deny the appeals. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Hollis Dorr. From the beginning, Archer has given me incredible encouragement as a student, artist, and young woman. Without the education and nurture Archer has provided me, my confidence, perseverance, and passion for knowledge would not have blossomed. This entire approval process has been a truly eye-opening experience, and unfortunately, I have seen the negative sides of some people in our neighborhood because of it. I spoke at the first hearing for this plan, and it was heartbreaking for me and my peers to hear the negative things people were saying about our school, especially when we are proud to be a part of the Brentwood community. But being an Archer girl, I was taught to rise above and to not let that negativity keep us from fighting for what we need and deserve, a place to gather as a community, an opportunity to have home games on our campus, and a place to perform for our family and friends. I'm standing here to ask that you support our campus plan, not only for me, but for future generations of Archer girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good evening. My name is Rosalind Davis, and I am an Archer parent. When I first visited Archer, one of the things that stood out was the school's diversity and spirit of inclusion. Many schools claim to be diverse, but at Archer, they meet that statement with action. A few months ago, I was on the campus and saw several students of varying cultures participating in a stepping routine. Stepping is a form of dance that is prominent at historically black colleges and universities. I'm a member of the illustrious sisterhood of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, so that meant a lot to me. To see this introduced to the student body was exciting and encouraging because it was celebrated. At Archer, there is an unspoken phrase of "I see you, I embrace you, and I appreciate what you bring to the table." I think you'd be hard-pressed to find parents at other independent schools that can say they've experienced that sentiment with as much conviction as I am here today. LA needs schools like Archer, and Archer cannot thrive without basic facilities to achieve its needs. Please push this plan forward.
All right,
thank you.
Before I call any more cards, there's still a pretty big stack. Let me ask you, and I know a number of you wish to waive your time on that. If there's anybody that wants to speak in favor of, I've got the cards and the appellants and the others, in favor of Archer that has not yet spoken, if you want to come up now and then just state your name and I'll pull your card out rather than going through the entire list. Now, if you filled out a card, you still will be on file that you filled a card out, and it'll be a part of the official record, just to let you know. So that'll still be part of the record. Herman, that wasn't you. I haven't gotten to your card yet. And so everybody else, or Wayne, your cards are still there, and I will call you in a moment. But the others for Archer, if you filled out a card, if you wish to, if seeing none, then we're going to go ahead. We'll take your cards, and I really appreciate it. We'll go ahead, and I'm sure a lot of you will have a lot of very, very similar stories as well. And so I appreciate you all coming down and having the patience through this. And so we'll go ahead and note and file your cards, but officially that you were here and you filled them out to speak in favor as well. With that, Antonia Ramirez, is she still here? She's no longer here. Okay. Wayne and Herman, you want to come on up?
Thank you. I'm very concerned about the human inconvenience and the public safety issues that are either hindered or deliberately contrived by some council members, officials, LAPD, Sheriff's Department. Here you have an appeal filed by Mark Stratton on behalf of the Bel Air Skycrest Property Owners Association for Campus Preservation Improvement Plan projects for 3.5 years. And on subsections 2, 3, 4, and 5, they approved a modifications of the height, regulations, fences, gates, and/or walls from 3.5 feet front yard and or 6 feet on the side and rear. And then now they've approved it for 8 feet. So God bless you. Imagine living in East LA and we've been asking for our gates or walls and fences to be above 8 feet. How easy it is to have it, the walls erected that high, 8 feet, in a very safe neighborhood. Try living in East LA or other neighborhoods. That is a mother of a mother. But good luck for you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wayne from Encino, Herman.
Without prejudice, I'm going to use these acronyms that might offend some of you, which I will fully utilize my constitution of knowledge to yield of unionism, meaning fuck you. Why? Because to deny this appeal is what I expect to hear and see. For the reasons of setbacks, encroachments, overturn this plan. It's a disaster already. Yes, AIDS, not the AIDS you get from bad sex, but acknowledge individuals' development to equal service and equal programs in their communities. Why? Because it's an MOU. Make others understand, which is you, and all of you. I can't say nothing bad about Cedillo because he's a badass man. I know him from when I was a child, when he raised my brother in the football team. Thank you, Gilbert. Do a good job.
Wayne.
Yes, these homeowners should be allowed to keep their homes. The school is there. It doesn't have to expand into a new country of its own, does it? And you keep pushing these set-asides back to zero. What is that bullshit? When we have the next property crash, you want what are these homeowners going to do for equity when they're losing their set-asides, when they're losing their peace and quiet and other issues that they use? And I noticed that you also denied the aquatic center. For people that speak English, it's called a pool. You took out the pool. I mean, if you're going to build a school, you got to have a pool, right? I mean, you know, so you should approve and sustain the appeals until the drought is over and then resubmit the plan check with the pool. It doesn't make a sense without the pool.
We will consider that. Mr. Englander.
Yeah, I just wanted, for those of you, just by a show of hands, and I know there's some former students and maybe even some current students and folks that this is the first time you may be visiting City Hall, I'm not sure. How many of you, just by a show of hands, this is the first time you've actually been here to council chambers, to City Hall? Okay, so welcome to public comment. I wanted to let you know the First Amendment is very much alive and kicking, and we allow clearly everybody to show up and participate. And so I wanted to share that with you, that we're bound by that, and further that we actually have several folks that show up to every single meeting, to every single council meeting, to every single committee meeting, and speak on every single item. And I think you've met a couple of those friends of ours, so just wanted to introduce them. Wave. There you go. Okay, so thank you. I just wanted to share that with you in case some of you might have been wondering why we weren't commenting on those, and let you know. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Englander. We're back to the two appellants that asked us to hold their cards till the end, so I will call them at this time. Rodney Lieber.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman, my name is Rodney Lieber. I'm Vice President of the Brentwood Homeowners Association. We represent 3,200 homes in the subject territory. At this time, we would like to withdraw our appeal and thank Councilman Bonin and his team for helping with this matter.
Thank you. Thelma Waxman.
You were the one in the beginning that spoke, and we said come back, right? You could have said that in the beginning. No, I'm kidding. All right, thank you.
We didn't see the white smoke. My name is Thelma Waxman. I live at 11840 Chaparral Street, right next to the school. I represent myself and my husband and the residential neighbors of Archer. After months of negotiations, thousands of hours, we have come to an agreement with Archer on certain conditions and restrictions which will be incorporated in the CUP and a separate covenant to protect our neighborhood. Therefore, I formally withdraw our appeal and support the Archer School for Girls in their project with the following conditions. 1, no Saturday or Sunday use of the athletic field. Note, the Saturday use of school for instruction, extracurricular activities, and customary school activities will be limited to 50 people between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., with the exception that 8 times per year there will be 100 girls or people on campus for extracurricular activities. The following construction mitigation measures will be included. Truck staging will happen exclusively on the Archer campus and not on residential streets. Portable toilets will be no closer than 50 feet to the residential properties. There will be cleaning of construction trucks before they exit the property, and there will be window cleaning of residences adjacent to the school once a quarter and limited to the exterior cleaning. There will be additional noise mitigation measures. There will be additional noise barriers for the north garden and the western boundary of the property that is reasonably satisfactory to the neighbors. There will be required use of the underground passageway by faculty, staff, students, and visitors Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and all day Saturday and Sunday, with the exception of when there are performances in the Performing Arts Center. Barrington shall not be used for vehicular access to or from the campus during school operations. There will be no outdoor use for special events or athletic events after 6 p.m. during the week and all day on the weekends. There will be no athletic events that end past 9 p.m. There will be a Performing Arts Center that is 10,995 square feet above ground with approximately 6,700 square feet below ground. Fixed seats not to exceed 350, expandable to 395 with portable seating. And finally, there will be on-site construction parking, but there will be limitations on the egress from the site that will include staggered departures during the peak hours of 3 to 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Starrett, you had 2 minutes.
Let me count it down, because it doesn't. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Cindy Starrett again on behalf of Archer. And we also want to thank Councilman Bonin for his hard work to bring together those additional modifications. I also just wanted to submit a couple more things for the record so that you have it in front of you for the purposes of your action today. First is I had mentioned a proposal that we will prepare an updated health risk assessment prior to pulling a building permit. So if the city does adopt more stringent criteria for emissions reduction, we will analyze that criteria, and we'll make sure we have additional emissions reduction to comply at the time of building permit for that. I'd also like to note for the record that the agreements that we have reached that Ms. Waxman referenced include allowing for our summer enrichment program. They include noise protections to ensure the use of an underground pedestrian pathway and limit the use of our north garden. The councilman asked us to increase the percentage that ride the bus from 50%, which is already the highest in the city, to 76%, which is a dramatically high number. But Archer has agreed to it, and through that, the councilman will make peak hour traffic better after the new CUP than it is today. Ms. Waxman mentioned construction parking, and you have language before you for a construction parking plan that will be submitted to staff for their approval to make sure that these obligations are reached. Parking is further limited by those conditions. We'll make early submittals of transportation and parking management plans. And then finally, I'd just like to note for the record that many of the appellants commented that they thought the baseline mansionization ordinance applied to a CUP, and it does not apply. However, to the extent that expressing that concern is shorthand for residential compatibility, these additional conditions further ensure that residential compatibility for the project. We respectfully request that you deny all of the appeals with the exception of granting the
I'm
Waxman...
sorry, you actually have one more minute because typically on the appellants, appellants or the applicants, when you have a representative, we give the allotted time to the representative, and then the actual owner or applicant could have an additional minute of public comment time, so you have an additional minute. I'm just trying to be fair across the board as to how we allocate time here.
Thank you very much, because we
Sure.
recognize how
Thank
late
you.
it is, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And so in terms of the appeals, we're asking that you deny the appeal of the Brentwood Hills Homeowners Association, of the Wrights, of Bel Air Skycrest, and of the Brentwood Residents Coalition, that all those be denied in full. And you heard that the Waxman and BHA appeals have been withdrawn. However, the modifications that have been requested by the councilman, and that we agree to the modifications that have been requested on the record by RNA and the BHA, that those revised conditions be included in the action to go forward to the council. We have submitted to staff a very detailed language, and I think you've heard today on the record some of the additional details, but of course we will follow up with staff and city attorney because this action will be public before the council moves forward, and there will be full transparency as required before the council acts on your recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tricia Keene from Council District 11.
I think it's good evening at this point. My name is Tricia Keene, and I'm the Director of Land Use and Planning for Councilmember Mike Bonin. On behalf of the councilman, I want to thank everyone for the significant amount of time and effort that each person here has dedicated to this project. I particularly want to acknowledge all of the hard work that led to the agreement being reached with two of the appellants. Before you today is one of the more complicated projects that has been proposed for our district since the councilman took office nearly 2 years ago. The Archer School for Girls is a world-class institution in a complex location. For those who aren't entirely familiar with the area, the project is located at the intersection of Sunset and Barrington, which is, by most accounts, one of the most gridlocked parts of the west side. That's why, back in October of 2014, Councilman Bonin challenged Archer to make significant changes to their project, particularly to address traffic. The councilman challenged Archer to scale the project back and to address a list of community concerns. Archer immediately agreed to the councilman's revisions, and the past several months have seen intense negotiations between Archer, community groups, neighbors, and our office to get the details right. As the councilman has stated many times throughout the process, traffic ranks above and beyond all other issues as a central issue for this project. When evaluating what was appropriate for the site, the councilman first and foremost was concerned with the actual impacts of the project. Obviously, the biggest question was whether there were traffic impacts, but also important was whether the project impacted the neighborhood quality of life and how any changes to the project would ultimately impact the education of the students who attend Archer. Back in October, the councilman asked for 33 changes to the project, many of them to deal with traffic, and Archer quickly made a number of those changes. While the revised project was definitely an improvement over the original proposal, there were still impacts that needed to be addressed, which is why the councilman submitted a letter to the CPC detailing several specific revisions and conditions necessary to ensure the impacts of the project were addressed. Several of those changes were incorporated into the CPC's action. In order to fully adhere to the councilman's suggestions, Archer's commitment to meet those conditions, we are asking today that your committee make some additional changes to the CPC determination. I have submitted a copy of those changes to the clerk.
Ms. Keene, are these them just for the
Yes, which you have in front of you. So for the additional changes that remain, I'll just mention them briefly. In the letter dated June 26, 2015, Archer submitted several additional conditions or revisions intended to address the concerns that were laid out in the councilman's letter. We've reviewed that language, and with the few modifications noted in the materials you have, we believe the language in the letter addresses the concerns that were raised. You also heard today some additional requests from one of the appellants. We fully support including those conditions as well. The key areas where we are requesting further modifications and that are reflected in the materials you have relate to additional parking and traffic management provisions, the number of athletic competitions, Saturday field use, and the residential neighborhood compatibility of the Performing Arts Center.
Our office is sincerely thankful for all of the time and effort that has been put into this project. As I'm sure you can tell, this is a complex matter that has required a great deal of thoughtful and detailed work. With the inclusion of the additional requirements I've mentioned, the ones that Archer has submitted, and the ones that the appellants have requested today, the councilman respectfully requests that your committee support this project. Thank you.
Okay, Planning Department, any comment on any of the discussion that we just had in public comment?
Adam Villani, let me wait for Ms. Ibarra to come back.
Okay. Welcome.
Hi, Lucy Ibarra with the Planning Department Major Projects Section. So we also submitted a letter to the committee relative to the conditions that were submitted yesterday. And so I just wanted to verify that we also submitted conditions following the recommended conditions that were provided yesterday by the applicant's representative. Together, we've also reviewed the conditions that were proposed by Council District 11 and the additional conditions, modifications, and project design features. So there's conditions in here that have already been addressed in the determination letter that was issued by the City Planning Commission. Principally, I'll just state really quickly that so on the second page, the Barrington parcel, the removal of the aquatic center, that's already been removed, so there no longer has to be additional language to address that. The preservation of residential lot on Barrington Avenue has been addressed in Condition 12C of the CPC determination. The additional language relative to the limitations on use for residential portion can be added to the existing condition number 12C. Item C, the Chaparral parcel and Performing Arts Center, the setback requirements are already identified in conditions number 8 and 9. And then there's some language here that may or may not be consistent with the agreement that was made by the appellant, Waxman. So I just want to confirm that the total seats will be 395, with 350 being fixed and 45 being portable chairs. The filming on the property for commercial purposes, I just want to confirm that that is still being prohibited, and maybe the council office can confirm this. The Performing Arts Center, I just want to confirm that the agreement still stands. That
One second. Let's get some clarification on those two items before we move on. Ms. Keene, on the seats, the Planning Department needs some clarification on what actually was submitted.
For the seats on the Performing Arts Center, it's 350 fixed seats with up to an additional 45 seats available if, when using portable chairs.
Okay, that's consistent, correct? Planning Department, Ms. Ibarra?
Right, that's what we have. And so for the Performing Arts Center, the total floor area would be 17,758 square feet with 10,995 at grade.
Yes, correct.
And filming, filming is still prohibited? I think that was in there.
Since the time of submittal of the conditions that I provided, there has been a change in that condition, and so we would request that not be done at this time.
Okay, so is that in your conditions, or is that
Correct.
just... Okay.
That would be number 4 in the conditions that we submitted, and that we are not requesting that your committee approve that at this time, or make that change at this time.
Okay, so
that it would allow...
Correct. The condition that CPC has in its determination would stand. We are not asking for that modification.
That's covered in, this is Adam Villani, that's covered in Condition 12B, the restrictions but not a ban on filming.
Well, the conditions you submitted from CD11 say filming on the property for commercial purposes is prohibited. So would you want to strike that, or is
Correct.
strike it from your proposed
Strike
conditions?
it from our proposal.
Okay.
I apologize for the confusion on that.
Okay, got it, okay.
And then the Saturday use of the athletic field. I understand it's limited now?
Correct.
We'll get we'll specify exactly what it is now.
Yeah, Beth Gordy with Latham and Watkins. Saturday use of the athletic field is prohibited.
Construction, always prohibited.
Okay, you got that, planning department?
Yes.
Okay.
Simple enough.
With the exception of one time a year for upper school graduation.
Is that on your proposed conditions here?
So in the proposed conditions, it was indicated for instructional or extracurricular activities, and it just should indicate that it's prohibited, period. Except for graduation.
There was, I'm sorry, this is Adam Villani again. I'm sorry, but there was something about allowing 50 people, 50 people, and then 100 people 8 times per year.
Yeah, that is for indoor use of the facilities, not for field use.
Thank you for that clarification.
We're going to need a clean record, and I'm afraid that this last item, the other items I think were clear, proposed, and typically when we're at this point of the committee, everything is clear, but since there were some last minute negotiations, it's understandable. We do want to finalize this today. Council is going on recess for a month, 3 weeks, whatever, and so we won't have another plum meeting for some time. So we do want to have this clarified, but it's good that we're clarifying this so that we can't vote on something or we can't discuss something if we're not clear on what it is. So other than the previous items that we discussed, that we were quite clear in the document that is submitted by CD11, on this one issue, can you go over that again so we understand what is a proposed condition?
Is this for the question on the Saturday use?
Yes, right. Is that correct, planning department? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the conditions that we submitted, we indicated that it was a prohibition on Saturday field use for extracurricular and instructional activities, and that should just be modified, simply modified to say Saturday field use is prohibited.
And what number is that on your condition?
So that is number 3 on the list of conditions. So it should say Saturday use of the athletic field shall be prohibited except for upper school graduation.
Okay, that is clear. Okay.
Okay, and then just to clarify, there's the number 1 additional condition. This can be accommodated in our existing condition format as item number 17H, unless that's changed.
Yeah.
The condition, your item number 2 about the maximum number of interscholastic athletic competitions, it's still the 98 and 40.
Correct.
There's an item under proposed item number 7, additional project design feature H1. We feel like we can accommodate that since it's already addressed in condition number 12, but the subsequent submittal language, item A, we feel like we can address this in the existing conditions of approval under phase development.
Okay.
So we have revised language for that, and I'll read it into the record. Prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the Performing Arts Center or the Visual Arts Center, the applicant shall seek a lot line adjustment or similar mechanism to reconfigure the lot lines to place the campus portion of the Barrington parcel onto the Chaparral parcel.
And that would be added to condition 5 under vesting the CUP.
And this is Cindy Starrett. I'm sorry, there's just at the very end of what you read, you should delete the reference to onto the Chaparral parcel.
Okay.
It just needs to end with
the Barrington parcel.
Yeah, relocate that off the Barrington parcel.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Anything else, planning department? Thank you, and thank you for reviewing this and making those clarifications. I understand the planning department also said that there are some items that, I'll paraphrase, repetitive, but if if you could, I mean, the repetitive, you take the condition anyway, and it wouldn't be an issue, correct?
I'm sorry, which one?
What he's saying, so there was some language that was proposed by CD11 about conditions that we felt have already been addressed in the existing conditions as was approved by the Planning Commission. So we request that those be removed since they've already been satisfied.
Okay, but got it. If they're conditions and they're already there, it's...
Right, it would be redundant.
Yeah, okay. So with that, we'll ask that we know the appropriate language for this would be that we move to grant the appeals in part so that the supplemental conditions of approval provided by CD11 can be integrated into the approval document. Okay? And we are approving these conditions based upon the verbal amendments that we just made. Okay?
Right, and I just want to clarify also that you're including the health risk assessment language that was proposed by the applicant that was submitted for your consideration.
CD11, just want to clarify with you, you were in the middle of negotiating all this. Can you ask that question again, Ms. Ibarra?
So the applicant's representative submitted additional provisions relative to the health risk assessment as an additional mechanism for review, and I just want to confirm that that is also before you today.
We are accepting that as amendment.
Yes, and just for clarity, you are denying in part the rest of the items that you wish to keep the same, other than the conditions that you're adding today. You're granting in part so that you can add the new conditions, and then you're denying in part to keep everything else the same.
Mr. Chair, on behalf of Archer, if I could just clarify our request, which is that the first four appeals would be denied in full, and then the two that would be granted to the extent of modifying the conditions would be the two that you heard from the BHA and the residential neighbors of Archer?
That would be much clearer.
Yes, that's correct, because my recollection is that they withdrew their appeals, but it's actually too late under the code to withdraw today, so you can go ahead and just deny the first four appeals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. That'll be the action of this committee without objection, so ordered. Thank you very much. Okay. Closed session item. It's going to be quick. Go ahead. No, we're good. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is item 5, which is a closed session item on pending litigation.
Thank you. Public comment on item number 5. Wayne Spindler. Herman. Gone, not here. David Ewing. David Ewing. Yes, sir. You could go ahead and speak, David Ewing. And for those who are walking out of the chambers, if you could please keep your voices down so we could continue the meeting. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. I'm a neighbor of the project, and I joined 32 of my neighbors in an appeal of the project, which resulted in the conditions placed on it by the APC. I believe the council office is also here to support the decision of the APC. The city attorney, the applicant is taking this to court, but the city attorney is confident of the city's position, and the neighbors wouldn't have all gotten together to appeal this if it hadn't been so greatly out of scale for its surroundings. And the APC tread as lightly as it could with these conditions. It could have done a good deal more. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 2 cards for CD11, so whichever one of you wants to speak, or both. Chris Robertson, Joseph Camp.
Good evening, Chris Robertson.
So is Joseph Camp speaking? No?
He will not speak.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chris Robertson, Planning Deputy for Councilmember Mike Bonin of the 11th District. The applicant seeks to compel the city to set aside and vacate 2 conditions of approval imposed by the WAPC. We support the conditions imposed by APC and feel that they were necessary for the city to make the findings required. We supported conditions that would meet the intent of the small lot subdivision guidelines and comply with the policies of the general plan as required by the Subdivision Map Act and City Code. The APC imposed these conditions to make an incompatible development more compatible with the single-story residential structures adjacent to the property. Chapter 5 of the Venice Land Use Plan covers urban design policies. On page 5-3, the policy governing design of multifamily development reads as follows. The design of all buildings shall be of a quality and character that improves community appearances by avoiding excessive variety or monotonous repetition. The originally proposed modern 3-story design is excessively different from the existing community character on Preston and Penmar and did not meet the intent of this policy. In the past, APC has imposed design restrictions on condominium developments. We understand that Government Code Section 66427, the Subdivision Map Act, expressly prohibits the governing body the right to refuse approval of a condo project on account of the design or the location of the buildings on the property that do not violate local ordinances. However, this section does not apply to fee simple lots, which is before you know. As you know, small lot subdivisions present a unique challenge for the city, and it is critical that the city retain its ability to look at these through a different lens, particularly because they are unique to the city and not expressly governed by design restrictions under the MAP Act. Among many things, the small lot subdivision design guidelines state that infill small lot projects must relate to the surrounding built form, respecting the overall neighborhood character. We respectfully request you to consider our position and uphold the conditions imposed by the APC. Thank you.
Thank you. So, CD 11s recommend that we uphold the decision by the APC.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. That ends public comment. We will now go into closed session to hear this item. And if I could ask that only city staff remain in the chambers, please. Public. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I am sorry. We are going to actually go in the back and have the closed session in the back. So if I could ask appropriate city staff to go in the back room, and also
good work on that.
We will be back from closed session in the back room. Today, man. That's quick, huh? City Clerk, can you let me know when we can start?
You can start now.
Okay.
Yes, now.
Okay, we are now calling back into session the regularly scheduled Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee. Councilmember Weezer and Councilmember Cedillo are present, and we just came out of closed session with an item number 5. There will be no recommendation, and move this item to council.
Yes, and for Brown Act purposes, no action was taken.
No action was taken. Okay. So ordered. Any other items on the agenda?
No, Councilman.
Oh, there's public
Oh,
comment.
public comment.
Public comment.
Ms. Ramirez is here.
Who?
Ms. Ramirez?
Ms. Ramirez, public comment.
Thank you. Our homes, our castles, our communities, neighborhoods, city, and country has had our sacred privacy invaded, violated, mutilated, and substantially degraded our happy, carefree, wholesome quality of life by these uncivilized and venomously jealous, filthy, nosy, racist thieves and hate-mongering wetbacks and violent, evil Chango Latino gangbangers. We have a vicious criminal Latino gang epidemic. The LA City Attorney's Office, council members, LAPD, Sheriff's Department, Homeland Security, FBI, CIA, Department of Justice, Camilla Harris, ACLU, NAACP, Anti-Defamation League, the Freemasons, the judges, attorneys, all have failed to protect law-abiding citizens and enforce the rule of law. Let's give them all the royal boot, for they have egregiously participated in chronic homelessness. Thus, I'm voting for President Donald Trump, who wants to restore our neighborhoods of crime and restore our beloved America. Donald Trump has the balls and the spit to fight for America. Bravo, Jefe Donald Trump. Viva America, and God bless the military. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment, and that concludes this meeting. No objection. Thank you. Bye-bye.